is suing her ex-boyfriend, James Stewart, for travel costs and a loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2102, Peterson versus Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Peterson, you and Mr. Stewart met online?
Yes.
You met Mr. Stewart, and according to your complaint, a romance developed, and there were two things that you believe, now that the romance is over, that he owes you. One of them is a loan that you made to him for $1,000. Now, Mr. Stewart does not deny that you gave him $1,000, correct?
No, ma'am.
Your defense is that it was a gift.
Correct.
And not made as a loan. Okay. On what date did you and Miss Peterson start to date?
We never dated. We actually wasn't through no dating site. Just somehow, coincidence, we came through.
Did you see her?
I met her once in person.
When?
When she paid for a hotel for my birthday.
Give me the date.
January 30th.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So you met for the first time in January of 2022. Tell me about the $1,000. If you're playing with your papers, you're not going to hear where we're going.
Okay.
The $1,000 at that time, I was been struggling with heart disease, which I just got out the hospital for having a heart surgery last Friday. So financially, my dealership was a little bit under the burden. So I asked her if she would help me.
And when did you ask her? Was that in January?
No, ma'am. That's a couple months later.
All right, so that would be in March.
Yeah.
And it's the only time that you ever met her was in January.
I met her once, other than that, when she gave me the money. Other than that, it was just normally her texting me, how you doing? Do you want to meet up?
Okay. So you met personally twice.
Correct.
And after January, you didn't see each other personally, just by messages. And that's when you asked her for money. And you were going to tell me why in March you asked her for money. I understand that you just recently came out of the hospital, and while I'm happy to see you looking well and healthy, it's really irrelevant to this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so why did you ask her for $1,000?
Because she offered to help me.
No. Nobody offers to help you unless they know that you need help.
Well, it's in writing.
No. Nobody offers to help you unless you let them know that you need help.
I was kind of life coaching her. We both was going back and forth. We had an open line of communication, so I kind of got comfortable to ask. So I see what you're saying.
Got comfortable to ask?
She already gave me money before that $1,000. That's why I was comfortable.
Just a second. I'm talking about the loan. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell me, since you acknowledge that she gave you the money, tell me why you needed it.
Well, I needed it because I paid for the trip, which was $2,180, which she gave me $2,000 plus $160 more for luggage. Came to just shy of $2,400.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Well, she's already came to me and gave me money for us to take this little trip together.
What does that have to do with this $1,000? That's not what I'm talking about.
Because she was supposed to come and reimburse some of the money because I paid already into the trip. So I was asking her for money.
Am I crazy? Did he start to talk about his business needing money? He has a used car business.
Yes.
Really, before you come on a program like this, you should really watch so that you would know that one of my favorite sayings is, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory, especially if you're smart. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're not so smart, and within 3 minutes you tell two different stories, that, Mr. Stewart, is a phrase that you should learn to live by. If you tell the truth, you don't need a good memory.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, that's only because you wouldn't know the truth, because you have been introduced to the truth.
He says, the $1,000 at that time, I was struggling with heart disease, which I just got out of the hospital for having a heart surgery last Friday. So actually, my dealership is a little bit under the burden, so I asked her if she would help me.
So you remember saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's different from she was paying me back. You just have to acknowledge that's different. Okay. And let me tell you what you swore to in your answer. She offered to help me catch up on my child support.
On a phone conversation, yes.
I just asked you one simple question, sir. You acknowledged she gave you $1,000. What was it for? So now I have 3 reasons. 1, your car dealership was a little bit of a burden. 2, she was returning your money to you. And 3, you were catching up on your child support. Yes. Those are the 3 things that I have in front of me.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
Whichever one you would like, ma'am.
So far it's $1,000 for the plaintiff. Now, whether it was for school or whether it was for your children's support, she's not responsible for your children's support. You're responsible for your children's support. Have you ever met his children?
No.
She doesn't even know your children.
No.
Do you have a child support order?
No. She asked me to marry her, though.
Just a sec. I asked you a question,
Yes,
not
ma'am.
her. Do you have children? The answer is
Yes, I have children. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. This is not a dance.
No, I'm just
This
saying.
is not a dance.
Yes, ma'am.
You lead, I lead, I always lead.
Yes, ma'am.
Later.
You had some trouble with your finances, and you had serious debt. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a credit collections agent.
Not a good thing when you're a credit collections agent.
Joy Peterson claims her ex-boyfriend, James Stewart, owes for travel costs and a loan.
Now, the children do not live with you.
They're above age. Yes, ma'am.
When you swore in your answer that you had gotten behind in your child support order, what child support order was that?
It's the last child because I got behind because I was out of work. So they're above age, but I owe a little arrears.
Okay, so that's the child support that you were behind. Had you been noticed to come to court on those arrears?
I've never been in contempt, no, ma'am. I've always kept a good standings with them.
Okay, but you're behind now.
Yes, ma'am.
You were behind then in March.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you knew you were behind because?
I was on bed rest for 5 months due to a knee surgery and some heart issues.
Okay, did you request that your child support order that was on arrears only be stayed while you weren't working?
I got a new caseworker, wasn't willing to work with me at that time. So
Okay, so there was difficulty. Your caseworker was involved in this child support order. That sounds better. And the child support order was in favor of the state?
I don't owe the state no money. I paid all fees off with them. I just owe the back child support.
To the mother of the children?
Yes.
Okay, $1,000. Now, I'm going to come to you. According to you, you gave the defendant $2,000 to buy travel tickets for you.
Yes, Your Honor.
When?
I gave him money in March.
At the same time that you gave him the $1,000?
No, ma'am. That was in April.
Show me proof of that. And I want to see $2,000 taken out from someplace for him to pay for these tickets. And they were tickets for you to go from where you live, which is where?
Springfield, Ohio.
To Miami.
Yes, ma'am.
The $2,000 was in March. What were you going to do in March?
In March, I gave him the $2,000 to purchase tickets because I asked him, can he get discounts for us to go to Miami because I was going to have surgery. So he told me yes, sure. So I gave him the $2,000 for that.
That's not.
Then he said, well, that's going to be more than that. I said, well, that's all I have for the tickets for me and my daughters. He said he wanted to go, so he was planning on going.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes, ma'am.
on what date did she give you the $2,000 to buy the tickets?
It was early March. She could.
Yeah, March, looks like March 25th. She gave you $2,000. And when were you supposed to go to Miami?
We were supposed to go July 4th, and she.
Okay,
canceled.
just a sec. You're supposed to go in July. So you're talking about 4 months later.
Yeah, she canceled the trip.
Okay. When did she cancel the trip?
She canceled the trip about a month later.
So she canceled the trip in April.
Yeah, and it was a third party, so it's non-refundable.
I don't know that at all.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just a second. So you're going to have to show me.
I didn't borrow it.
You borrowed the $1,000. I didn't say you borrowed this $2,000. She gave you money for a specific purpose.
Right, she went-
Don't speak. She gave you money for a specific purpose to purchase airline tickets.
For us.
Which you... I don't give a rat's behind for who. She gave you money to purchase.
As I did.
Airline tickets.
As I did.
This is not a dance.
No, I'm just
This
saying
is
I
not
did.
you lead, I lead, you... I always lead.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I always lead.
Yes, ma'am.
She gave you $2,000 to buy tickets. That you acknowledge. The trip was canceled 3 months before the trip. Now, you say they were non-refundable tickets.
Yes, ma'am.
Show me. I just want to see where you tried to get either a refund or a credit 3 months in. I don't speak. You have to show me, because you just said the tickets were non-refundable tickets And I could neither get money back for them when she canceled it or a credit. And I said, in all that paperwork, show me.
It's just public knowledge on their website. I apologize, I do not have it.
It's not public knowledge on any website. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. $1,000 loan, $2,000 for the tickets. We're finished here. Thank you very much. Out!
This court is adjourned.
Out!
She wanted to go on a vacation.
Taking advantage of me.
She was being a little aggressive.
Don't even look that way.
Now, hopefully, we can just move on with our lives.
I think we should print that on cards to hand out to people as they leave here. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That defendant, in the first 15 seconds, told 3 different stories about the same $1,000. Reminded me of a toddler when you ask if they had cookies and it's all over their mouth and they say, no, I didn't have chocolate, I didn't have candy. 15 seconds, 3 different stories. So if you tell the truth,
You don't need a good memory.
not at all.
Case 2158, Smith versus Crosley. All parties, please step forward.
Justin Smith is suing his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Crosley, for an unpaid loan.
Miss Crosley, I'm going to start with you. You and Mr. Smith were in a romantic relationship for a period of time.
Yes.
From when to when?
I want to say it was about a year before my son was born. My son was born February 11th, 2019, and our relationship ended about 4 or 5 months after he was born.
And after you separated, according to what I read, you sort of remained friends.
Yes.
Great. You had some trouble with your finances, and you had serious debt. What kind of work do you do?
I am a credit collections agent.
Not a good thing when you're a credit collections agent. And this was after you had already been separated for a long period of time. And at some point, what I'm piecing together is you discussed your financial circumstances with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And one of your options was to seek protection in bankruptcy.
Correct.
And Mr. Smith thought that that was a bad idea.
Yes.
So he suggested that you take out a loan, consolidate all this debt, which was on, I assume, on credit cards with very high interest. And since he had credit, he would take out the loan and you would pay that loan off, which was manageable every month. Is that generally what this is about?
Yeah.
Yes.
His behavior had started getting irrational, scary, started calling me a lot, asking my whereabouts, texting me, driving by my house on several occasions I saw.
I'm still not understanding why you stopped paying on the loan.
Justin Smith claims his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Crosley, owes for an unpaid loan.
Mr. Smith did take out that loan, month and year.
March of 2022, this year.
What were the payments each month, starting in March or April, principal and interest?
He had told me that it was $500.
Told you they were $500. He took out that loan, and am I correct, Ms. Crosley, that you paid off your credit card debt?
Yes.
And you paid off your debt with the loan that he took out?
Yes.
And you did, in fact, create a situation where the money, because you were employed, would come out directly from your bank account to go to pay off the loan to his bank account.
Yes.
And you did that in what month?
That was started, I believe, at the end of April or beginning of May.
And how many such payments did you make?
Biweekly payments, I believe I made about 6.
Thereby acknowledging that this was a loan. At some point, you stopped making the payments. What month did you stop making the payments?
In July of this year.
Why?
So I had started seeing my current boyfriend.
This is not a social show. Just tell me why.
So I had to take a day off of work to file for an order of protection.
Why did you have to take a day off from work to file for an order of protection?
Because I was advised to by a police officer I spoke to.
Okay, and I assume against him.
Yes.
Okay, give me the incident.
Okay. So in July, when I started seeing my current boyfriend, Justin had expressed that he wanted us to get back together. And I had told him no, that was not going to happen. And then his behavior had started getting irrational, scary, started calling me a lot, asking my whereabouts, texting me, driving by my house on several occasions I saw. And then there was an incident on July 19th where I had allowed his mother to take my son to a play and she was supposed to drop him off back to me. And instead of dropping him back off to me, she had dropped him off with his father at his work. And then I got a call from Justin yelling, saying, "Where are you? What are you doing right now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm on my way back home. Your mom's supposed to drop off Braden." He's like, "I have Braden. I'll meet you at your house." So I said, okay. We got to outside my house, and then he pulled up next to me and then started screaming out of the car, like, "Where were you? What were you doing?" I was like, "I was spending time with Anthony, my boyfriend." And he's like, "I'm taking Braden. I'm not going to give him back to you." And my son's crying in the back seat. And I said, "No, you give him back to me. It is my day to have him." And he drove away. He later called me and said I could meet them at Dairy Queen. So I met them there. I got out of the car. I went up to my son. And as I was getting him in the car, Justin had walked up to my car and started yelling and swearing at me. And as me and my son started driving off, he threw a milkshake at my car, which scared me and my son very much.
Okay, good. And you filed for an order of protection. You had a trial on the order of protection,
Yes.
and the judge dismissed your order of protection.
Yes.
After the trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm still not understanding why you stopped paying on the loan.
So when I had lost my job,
You lost your job when?
the next day, the incident happened on the 19th. I had to take the 20th off to file for the order of protection. The 21st, I was let go.
Oh, that had nothing to do with you being let go. Nothing. I just want to know why you stopped paying on the loan. You stopped paying on the loan because you lost your job? Are you working now?
Yes, I just started working.
Well, did you start paying him back?
No. So
Why?
also in July, when all these incidents happened, Justin had stopped paying for daycare, which was our agreed upon child support payment. We don't have a court order for child support, but he had been paying all of daycare. I cover all of his other finances.
So that was an agreement that you had, that he would pay for daycare.
Yes.
Okay. And he stopped paying in July.
Yes, he started only paying half of daycare.
Okay, so let's go back. He started paying for half.
Yes.
How much was he supposed to pay per month?
$560 was the full amount of daycare each month.
Okay, and he had been paying that. In July, he cut it down to?
To 270, I believe.
80.
80.
Okay, so he wasn't completely not paying. He was paying part of it.
Correct.
Tell me why you cut the payments in half, because you have a counterclaim for that.
Yeah. So in July, we started a custody case for full custody of our son.
You're talking in July. Who started the custody case?
I did, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you retain a lawyer?
I did.
Is that case still ongoing?
It is.
Well, then I'm not entertaining anything about the daycare because you have that case in family court. The court there will make a determination as far as future child support and whether or not this daycare should have been paid. So you have no reason for not paying the loan.
I was planning on filing bankruptcy.
Okay, but you didn't. You didn't file for bankruptcy. You did the smart thing. How much is left on the loan?
It's in excess of $12,000 or $11,000.
What interest rate is on that loan, by the way?
36%, I believe. Current balance as of November 30th, $12,631.
How is a 30% loan better than her credit cards?
She had some loans in excess of 800%.
From whom?
Or over 500%. These were online lenders.
Wow. Okay, you have a counterclaim. Harassment, daycare costs is out. Lost wages because you say you had to take a day off to file a protective order and you were fired? Nonsense. Harassment, let's hear it. And don't go back to anything that you told the judge during the hearing that you had where he dismissed your application for an order of protection.
Okay, well, the order of protection.
Okay,
That was...
They're just shh. Well, if that's the testimony, it's already been adjudicated. A judge, using the same measure of proof that I would use, dismissed your case. So I'm not relitigating that case. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I believe he was angry that I started a relationship with somebody.
I think the restraining order was part of her defense as to why she didn't want to pay me back anymore.
I was ready to file bankruptcy, and he had offered to take it out for me.
You know, at the end of the day, the loan is still agreed upon and still needs to be repaid.
I think that that's a good lesson, that you can't use the court systems and restraining orders to get out of a loan that you have really no excuse for not paying except for you lost your job. And I just think it's tricky. I think that a lot of defendants come in here and think that they can just say, I didn't have the money and so I don't have to pay it. But that's not the case.
What's most interesting to me is these 800% or 500% or 100% interest-bearing loans.
I know, it's
Where
something.
did that come from?
It's something I've seen recently in the past couple of years. It seems like every online shopping venue now has some form of loan payment or loan offering or sign up for our loan program. And I'd never seen that before. And if you don't read the fine print, you could get stuck in just.
Alan Lukoski is suing business owner Gene Clunn for a semi-automatic rifle.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2055, Lukoski versus Clunn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lukoski, am I correct that you own or manage a shooting range?
Yes, it's a target range. It's on my own property that I own in northern Minnesota.
And it's licensed to do commercial target shooting?
Not necessarily. What I do is...
What is not necessarily? What does that mean?
Well, for 19 years, I have been a firearms instructor for the permits to carry for the sheriff's department in my county. Okay. So I don't believe that the training is good enough that the people are getting to be able to carry handguns on the street. So I give them a free additional training session at my range.
You also sell guns?
I do not sell guns, no.
How do you make money, is my question.
So I give money by charging people for the class.
Well, that's what I'm talking. You charge people
yes.
to use, and you don't need a license to run that sort of operation in your county.
No, you have to be a registered NRA instructor, which is also,
Are you?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
For how long?
Oh, I've been doing this for 19 years.
The case is really not very complicated, but let me see if I can break it down to its most basic elements. There was a gentleman who regularly came to your range.
Yes.
And his first name was?
Jim.
How long had he been coming to your range?
A couple of years at least.
And then, according to what you indicate in your complaint, and Mr. Clunn doesn't deny it, he got sick. And according to you, the nature of his illness, you felt prevented him from using a heavier weapon.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you loaned to him, because of his illness, a rifle.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of rifle did you
It
loan?
was a sporting rifle. It was very lightweight.
What kind?
It was called a PS-90. That was the model.
PS?
PS as in Sam, 90.
Would you take a look at that, Sarah, please?
I have a picture of it, Your Honor, if you'd like to see one.
I would.
It's very unusual. Thank you.
Okay.
I see it. Thank you.
And on approximately what month and year did you loan Jim this gun?
Well...
Well is not an answer, so let's think carefully, because we know we're coming.
Probably a month approximately before he died, which was
I don't know when that was.
September 8th, I believe he passed away in 2021.
How did you find out that he passed away?
I believe Mary here, who's here because of the fact that she caregave for him while he was going through cancer treatments. She was his reason for staying alive. And she also did witness some things that happened in this case.
Okay, I'll get to you in a second. So he passed away on November 8th.
He died on September 9th.
9th?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And okay.
Prior to his passing away, Jim and Mr. Clunn had some business deal. And Mr. Clunn believed that Jim owed him money. So far, right?
Correct.
And after Jim died, Mr. Clunn went to Jim's home and took several things from the home to satisfy that debt.
No, I did not do that, Your Honor. I never came back to the house. I never took anything. Everything I received prior to his death.
Okay. Tell me when you received the gun that belonged to Mr. Lukoski.
Looks like 5/20/21.
Can I see what you have that indicates that you received the gun in May? Because you gave it to him about a month before he died?
Approximately a month.
Well,
could have been a little longer.
It had to be longer.
Okay.
I picked it up the 5th month.
In May?
Yes.
Okay, and you couldn't have given it to him in August?
Yeah, you're right.
It had to be before then.
Okay.
And tell me the circumstances, because that's what this case is about. Mr. Lukoski claims that it was his gun. It was a loan. You had no right because you took it. You got it, evidently, you want to tell me, from Jim, and then subsequently sold it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding your getting possession of this gun in May of 2021.
Jim was in need of money, so I loaned him money, And in trade for the money as collateral, he said he would
Okay. And I'm going to let you tell me this because Jim's not here, so I'm going to have to get more specifics from people who were his caregivers to buttress what you're saying to me. He needed some money. How did you know him?
Best friends from high school.
And you remained friends?
Yes.
How did you find out that Jim needed money?
Jim called me up, and he was getting scammed, but he wanted the money, and he told me
he was getting scammed by whom?
I don't know who it was, but anyway, I would give him $2,500. He would go to the post office and mail it somewhere. But every time he did that, I would receive collateral of motorcycles or guns.
Just a second. I want you to run this by me. Jim called you and said, I'm being scammed?
No. I think he's being scammed.
I don't care what you think.
Okay.
What you think is unimportant to me. I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding the money that you gave to him. He called you and said...
He needed to borrow money. I borrowed him the money.
No. I need to borrow money. Had you ever loaned him money before?
Yes.
Often?
No. In the last year of his life, I did probably a half a dozen times.
Just in the last year. So when he called you and said, I need to borrow some money, the reaction, even from a best friend, would be, of course, if you need money, tell me why. Right? That's a natural question. And so that's what you asked him. Tell me why.
And I asked him that question, and he said he was going to be receiving $1 million or $2 million in the next few months.
Okay. So you brought Mr. Lukoski's gun back to Jim while he was alive?
No, I sold the gun.
Keep going. So you sold...
This specific...
Just tell the truth. You don't have to have a good memory.
Alan Lukoski claims business owner Gene Klun owes for a semi-automatic rifle.
So did you ask him how?
I asked him how, and he said he had it all planned with this guy he was sending the money to.
That's all he told you about it? Or did he go into specifics? He did. It had to sound interesting to you, Mr. Klun, because if my best friend called me and said, I need to borrow some money, and I said, tell me why. And she said, because I'm going to come into $1 million shortly, but I need to borrow money to get it to this guy before I get the $1 million. I would say, explain that to me.
And I did. And he said...
And he said...
He said that he would be receiving money in the next month or 2 months.
Mr. Klun, then you would say, how does that, and can I get in on it? You know, if I'm sending you $2,500, which is what you said you gave him, I would say, oh, gee, $2,500, that's a reasonable investment, and I'm going to get a return on my money of $1 million shortly. I would say, is there any piece of that for me?
I didn't question him. He just wanted the money, and he said in return for the money, he would give me the motorcycles and guns as collateral.
Okay. May I please see the written agreement that you had?
Verbal.
So other than you and Jim, nobody knew about this agreement?
Not that I'm aware of.
Now, when was the first time you gave him money?
Looks like May.
May?
Of 2021.
Okay. When was the last time you gave him money?
7/6/21.
Between May of 2021 and the beginning of July, how many times did you give him money?
4 times.
And you have that documented with bank records, et cetera?
Right here, Your Honor.
Okay, great. And tell me how much in total you gave him.
$7,500.
Kevin, would you bring me the documents that Mr. Klun is looking at, please? So in total, you gave him $7,500. And in return, according to you, you took possession of how many motorcycles?
3 motorcycles.
And they belonged to Jim?
And he signed over the titles and everything to me.
Well, they were collateral.
Right. But he signed over everything and gave me the titles for everything.
I see the titles to the motorcycles.
They're sold, ma'am.
Interesting.
As well as the rifles that I got also.
I'm just asking you, do you have the sales receipts from the 3 motorcycles? There were 3? Did you say 3?
Yeah.
Do you have the sales receipts from the 3 motorcycles that you say you sold?
No, but I was paid $5,000 in cash for the 3
How am I supposed to know that, sir?
Okay,
you sold
well,
3
anyway,
motorcycles.
Okay.
How am I supposed to know? I mean, all this is coming out of nowhere, actually, with no proof whatsoever, unless you're prepared to give me some flesh on this bone of a case. Could you stand up? Your first name is Mary?
Yes, it is.
What's your last name?
Wellman?
Were you Jim's caregiver?
Yes, I lived in the upstairs of his house.
Were you a tenant?
We were friends since the late 90s when I first moved to the area.
So regular caregiver of his, or were you just as needed?
He developed cancer in the late 90s, and I stayed, then I lived with him in the first 2 years because of the 50-50 survival rate and the constant trips to the Mayo Clinic from where we lived, were an entire day trip. And then after about 3 years, when he was kind of back on his feet again, I moved out, but we remained friends and we rode motorcycles together and we did lots together. And
so you lived in the house?
Yeah, and I moved back in okay.
Okay. Were you living in the house when he bought these 3 motorcycles?
2 of them I was. A dual sport that he had changed or upgraded to ride a little bit more rough terrain, possibly into Canada.
Okay, just to...
Okay. Yeah.
That's
why
that much flesh on the bones I don't need.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Did he buy them new or used?
He had bought them used.
In approximately what year?
Well, would have been during the cancer, and so it approximately 2000 to 2003.
Do you know anything else about his dealings with Mr. Klun?
I do know the motorcycles were in the garage when Jim died.
No, they weren't.
Don't.
Okay.
Don't speak. How do you know that?
Well, I had on and off go out there for things, but then Jim's nephew had come and removed one of the bikes right after Jim had passed away.
So the nephew came and removed one? Mm-hmm. But this was after he passed?
Yes.
What's the nephew's first name?
Anthony.
Do you know Anthony, Mr. Klun?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you get the motorcycle from Anthony?
Nope, I got the motorcycles from Jim, the motorcycles that were left after Jim passed away.
Okay. Now you can sit down.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Klun. Do you have any statements, text messages, or anything else indicating that Jim indicated to you that he could give you as collateral this rifle, other than the fact that he had it in his possession?
I got more than one rifle. I have checks that were written out to Jim, and that's what we did.
But that doesn't answer my question, Mr. Klun. I don't care how many rifles you had. He only had one that he gave to Jim because it was lighter and easier to shoot. And as his illness progressed, if I'm getting this right, it was hard for him to pick up his own rifle. Now, he may have had more, probably did have more, because you took more than one, right?
Correct.
Okay. How many rifles did you take?
I took 3 rifles, 5 pistols. I had to bring 3 of the rifles back.
Where?
To Jim to get replacements. The guns that were from Mr. Lukowski.
Only one?
3 of them.
No, he said he only gave him one.
Oh, no, but there was 3 of them.
So you brought Mr. Lukowski's gun back to Jim while he was alive?
No, I sold the gun.
Keep going. You sold...
This specific...
Just tell the truth. You don't have to have a good memory. If, heaven forbid, something happened to me and my dentist thought that I owed him $25,000, he couldn't come into my house and say, gee, this Ming vase is just going to cover my dental bill. You can't do that. And that's what you did.
Alan Lukowski is accusing business owner Gene Klun of selling his semi-automatic rifle without permission.
Keep going. So you sold it. You didn't take it back to him to get a replacement.
No,
to Jim.
You misunderstood. The gun that Mr. Lukowski had, I kept that one.
The one that belongs to Mr. Lukowski, you sold it.
Correct, because
So just a second. Sold it to whom?
The gun dealer in Virginia, Minnesota.
Great. And for that, you have a receipt.
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I left it at home.
Oh.
Your Honor,
Mr. Klun.
Oh,
Mr.
he
Klun,
has it right there.
let Mr. Klun, he doesn't have to prove anything to me. I believe that you resorted to self-help to claim a debt. If it's true, and you did in fact give him money, I actually don't believe that a guy like you would give him all this money without trying to find out what the scam was, or at least tell him, Jim, it sounds to me like you're being scammed. Somebody in Transylvania sent you an email that said a long-distant relative of yours died and left you $1 million. I need $2,500 in order to clear the paperwork to send you $1 million. And I will keep a little piece for myself for finding you. You know how many of those everybody gets? I don't know why people still believe that, but you evidently believed that story 4 times. And not once did you say your friend who was dying of cancer, Jim, this is ridiculous. What you're doing is just throwing good money after bad. I don't understand why you didn't say that to him, or if you did, you would not have said to him, unless you had something to gain, which clearly you did. You sold the motorcycles. You don't have any proof of what you sold them for. You expect me to take your word for the fact that you sold them for $5,000 in cash without proof. He owed you, if I were to believe you and these checks, $7,500. You sold the motorcycles, you sold guns, but unfortunately, one of the things that you sold belonged to the plaintiff. And when somebody dies, there is an estate. There's a judge who decides what property there is. You know, if heaven forbid something happened to me and my dentist thought that I owed him $25,000, he couldn't come into my house and say, gee, I like this Ming vase. This Ming vase is just going to cover my dental bill. You can't do that. And that's what you did. You sold property. You may have had a claim against his estate if he, in fact, owed you money and if the estate went to probate. I don't know. Did he own a house?
Yes.
Yes. Did he have children?
No, he left the house to me.
Okay. So he had an estate. Clearly, there's money in the estate because he left a house that has some value to someone else. So you cannot, Mr. Klum, resort to self-help. And Mr. Lukoski is going to show me the value of the gun that his...
Yes. May I expound just a bit on this gun?
I don't care about
the manufacturer.
I don't care about the gun. I don't care if it's a crown in my mouth. What's the value of the gun?
The value of the gun at the time that this man took possession of it.
Just give me an answer.
It was $3,000. It's gained in value.
Okay, well, who cares if it's gained in value, sir? I'd like you to show me where the gun is valued at $3,000. Did you look it up?
I did. I have it. It's listed from the same photo. I found the website listed for $2,500.
Okay. My law clerk found an ad online. Now you're going to show me what you want to show me, that the value is $3,000. Let me see it, please.
May I say something else about this gun?
Not until I look at this. I don't know what this is. Immediate checkout credit card. What is this?
Look at the very top, please.
I see what this is. I want to see what you paid for. This is something that's on sale, starting bid.
It's just a typical price of what they sell for on Gunbroker.
Okay. $2,500?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I'm pleased at the outcome because the information needed to be exposed that there was something terribly wrong.
Somebody waits for 10 months and finds out his gun is missing.
Too many different people, and no one had the same answer from him at any time.
Something's wrong.
I don't think he had a choice. There was only way he was going to win his case because everything's based on mistruths.
I could not get my mind around the defendant. To have a friend since high school that you're best friends with, you remained good friends with. If one of my best friends came to me and told me, hi, I just need to borrow $2,500, I'm going to be a millionaire 2 months from now, I'd say, are you crazy? There's so many of these scams going around. I know I've seen your phone sometimes gets tripped up with the scammers and in the middle of the night ringing off the hook. It's unfortunate that people fall for these scams and really send their hard-earned money, sometimes that they don't have, to these scam artists, and they're never going to see it again. And I think that people have to be really vigilant. I know there's been warnings and things like that I've seen more publicized recently about scams and just how detailed and intricate they can seem, but it's really just...
I get them all the time, as you said.
Yeah.
I have to go like this and then delete.
Delete.
Anton, please answer immediately. Your $3,000 refund is sitting here waiting for you.
Non-existent.
No, sometimes they leave out Anton. Your $3,000 refund is here.
Yeah, gotta be smart.
And, you know, Sarah, a couple of years ago, I don't know whether you remember, but I just thought about it. People were calling me and saying to me, Judy, I didn't know that you went into the cosmetics business.
Oh, yes, I do
you
remember.
And the people who crafted the advertisement, you know, with all kinds of real logos on the top
reviews
of it. And reviews, and I tried this stuff. And I remember being at the gym working out, and a woman came over to me and said, you know, I bought your cosmetics, and they were really terrible. And they keep sending them to me every month.
And probably charging her credit card.
Charging her credit card. And I tried every vehicle in the government to try to get somebody to
shut it down.
Track it down. And the answer was, they're so smart that they use international, you don't know where they could be. They could be in Peru, they could be in Chile, they could be in Brazil, they can be in Canada. And I know that there are many other celebrities who were caught with the same scam net. But this guy said, my friend Jim
was probably getting scammed. Then why would you provide him the money to get scammed?
You're absolutely right. Didn't believe.
Desiree Surratt is suing her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, for the cost of a car and childcare.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2195, Surratt versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Surratt, you and Mr. Vasquez were in a relationship for a period of time and have 2 children together. How old are the children?
I have a daughter that's 15 and a son that's 8.
How long did you and Mr. Vasquez live together, if you did live together?
It was a lot of off and on, so I would say maybe a combined time of 8 years.
And does your daughter enjoy a relationship with her father?
Unfortunately, no.
Is that correct?
As far as I knew, that she had a great relationship with me.
When was the last time you saw your daughter, sir?
We spoke just a couple of days ago. You know, she has more time with friends now, but I do speak with her on a frequent basis.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Why don't you wait outside? Okay? Because, Ms. Surratt, I don't believe in, unless it's absolutely necessary, and certainly in this situation, doesn't sound to me as if it's absolutely necessary to have your teenage daughter as a witness over a couple of $1,000s, which you may or may not be entitled to. Certainly, her father is in touch with her. She said he's in touch with her, which means that they communicate and that they have a relationship. Because I read the complaint and I read the answer, and I have a few basic questions. You're suing Mr. Vasquez, who you haven't lived with in many, many years, but who you share, according to what I've read here, joint legal and physical custody. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that pursuant to a court order?
Yes.
And when was that court order made?
I have a copy of it, so I can tell you.
2011, Your Honor. 2011.
Was there a trial, Mr. Vasquez?
There was a trial, Your Honor, yeah.
Were you represented by counsel?
I represented myself.
And what about the plaintiff? Did she have a lawyer?
She did, Your Honor.
I'd like to see a copy of that order.
It was from 2017.
Well, there was one in 2011.
This is the original one. It hasn't changed since then. We have parenting and legal custody, and a child support order, which is separate.
I'll say the 2016 order, the ex parte order, originally granted Mr. Vasquez custody of the children. Yes, you were the respondent in that case. It said on October 28, 2016, petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, filed a motion to establish custody and parenting time. The petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, seeks joint legal and physical custody. The petitioner also sought an order granting sole legal custody of the children based upon the allegations that his daughter was watching his son without supervision for extended periods of time and that his daughter was not attending school. Child Protective Services did an investigation and actually found that you were not sending your daughter to school.
Correct.
And she was staying home and she was babysitting. Okay. Would you tell me, without my having to go through this whole thing, was there a child support order entered?
Yes.
Ultimately, and ultimately the children remained with you?
Correct.
The final order. And what was the child support order?
The child support order initially was $93 $3 a month. I think I have a copy of it. And then to increase based off cost of living adjustments every year.
Is that $93 a month for both children?
For both children.
Okay.
Yes.
The order was ultimately increased. How much do you pay in child support now, sir?
$230 a month, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, that's not the order.
Well, I asked how much you pay. Were you ever in arrears of payment?
I was at one point, and then I caught up, so I've been caught
Well,
up.
they're catching up, so that $230 may be partly arrears. What is the order?
Oh, I'm completely caught up with my child support.
So the current order that you're paying is $230 a month?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. This is what you're suing for. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez agreed to pay half of certain sporting fees that the children had that are not contained in the child support order, and he didn't. So you're suing him for that, and he says that you never had such an agreement, that you enrolled the children in sporting activities, and then came to him and said, do you owe me half? Am I reading that correctly?
Your Honor, that's correct.
That's your position?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's move on to the plaintiff's position that you wanted to change the child support order to not what he was paying, but what he was paying, and half of their sporting activities.
We actually had a verbal agreement.
Well, I'd like you to tell me when that took place, what you said to him, and what he said to you. So tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably, just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person? Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money. Certainly wasn't a day, because 2 weeks later, he writes back, if we could arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
Desiree Surratt claims her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, owes for the cost of a car and childcare. Curtis is countersuing for car repairs and vacation expenses.
Tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably, just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person?
No, in person.
At your home?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me about the conversation. What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember the exact words, but...
Well, that's why we bring these things quickly, because now it's 2 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was basically, well, he wants to play this sport, Angelina wants to do track, this is how much it's going to cost, and his response was just, okay, let me know how much it is, and I'll pay half.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not quite correct. We don't have just conversation. We don't have any conversation at all. We communicate via text, and I rarely get a response. I've taken care of...
Just a second. We're talking about this one instance.
Okay.
She said that you had a conversation with her where you agreed to pay half of their sporting events. Based on that, I assume that you enrolled the children in the sporting events, paid the fee, and then said to him, this is your half. And he said, I'm not paying that half.
That's not correct, Your Honor. I didn't agree to pay half.
No, I'm not saying you agreed to pay half. That's what her position is.
I actually enrolled my son into soccer.
When?
It was this summer in July. And he was supposed to go for a month, and she took the kids out of the state without my knowledge for an extended vacation. And so I didn't have her pay half of that. And when she came back, she wanted to make that up to him. But that's without my knowledge.
Okay. How much did you pay for soccer?
$75.
So you never had a conversation with her about paying half of this? And it was never reduced to a modified order of the court because you have a court order for support. Okay. So I'm eliminating that. You want to change the order of support, you have to change it in court. Now let's move on to the second thing that you think that he owes you for. Cell phone. Let's hear about the cell phone.
He opened a cell phone account for my daughter.
When?
I don't know when it was.
When did you open a cell phone account, sir?
About 7 years ago.
And he paid it? He opened an account and he paid it?
Him or his dad. It was a business account.
I don't care.
I don't know
You
who
didn't
paid
pay
it. Correct. I didn't
You didn't pay it. So your daughter has had a cell phone for the last 7 years. Okay. And you didn't see the bills for it.
Correct.
Okay, so he paid it.
Somebody paid it, yes. Yeah.
He paid it.
I paid it, Your Honor.
You didn't pay it.
Correct.
Okay. So now you want money for a cell phone. For what?
Just for the last 6 months that I paid, I never agreed to, so I'm just asking for
Then
half
take
of
the
that.
phone away.
Well, she's 15, she's got
I
a job,
understand that.
and
I understand that. Who bought her the phone?
I bought the phone.
Okay. And how many years ago did you buy the phone?
It was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay. And it was paid for on his plan?
No, I paid for the phone cash.
No. The bills, ongoing bills, were paid for by him and the phone that you bought her 1.5 years ago, because you said you've been paying the bills for 6 months.
Yep.
Is that correct? Whitney, didn't you say I've been paying the bills for the last 6 months?
Yes. Correct.
Well, so when you first got the phone for a year, he was paying the bills.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Well, he was paying the bills for 7 years, but certainly after you bought the phone. But prior to that, she had a different phone. She had to have had a different phone because he was paying the phone bills for 6 years. Who bought that phone?
I don't know.
Your Honor, I purchased that phone. It was the iPhone XR.
Okay. So you bought the first phone, you bought a second phone. Very nice. And he paid the bills, the phone bills for 6 years, and you paid it for the last 6 months. It's not part of a court order. If you agreed to do that, you agreed to do that. What are you getting courts involved for?
I never agreed to pay the cell phone.
Well, he never agreed to pay his cell phone when she was 13 or 12. Your parents. He paid it for a long time. Now you're paying it. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a realtor.
You work in a family business?
Absolutely.
Tell me about the family business.
It's children first and foremost. You know what's best for them.
No. The family business, sir.
Oh, the family business.
You're in real estate. Is it a family business?
It is not a family business.
It's just yours. And you've been in real estate for how long?
For about 3 years now. And prior to that, I was in sales. That is a family business, and it's real estate marketing.
That's a family business.
That's family business.
You're not involved with that anymore. You
Also.
still are.
Yes.
Who owns that business?
Dad.
Your father.
He does, yes.
How many employees do you have?
Just about 10, Your Honor.
So your father employs 10 people, and you're one of them.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And what does your father pay you annually?
Oh, it's commission only, so no benefits.
And in the other real estate operation, do you have your own office, or do you operate out of your father's office?
My own office.
Where?
In Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Do you have any employees?
I don't.
So you work for your father on commission and yourself?
Commission only as well in the real estate market.
Okay. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
Is there any reason for that?
Just late. Just over.
You're late. You're a year late.
Yeah.
What about the year before? Did you file tax returns?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And how much did you declare as income the year before last?
It's like 55, I think. 55,000, yep.
Okay, so phone bill, I've taken care of the phone bill. You paid it for her, fine. And if you don't want to pay it anymore, let her get an after-school job and pay for her own phone. Now, the next thing that you're suing for is, according to your complaint, you had a car that you weren't using. Mr. Vasquez has a father who wanted a car. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez, without your permission, sold the car, your car, to his father for $700, and you didn't get any of that money.
Correct.
Mr. Vasquez says his father was going to buy the car. He drove it. He didn't want to buy it because it had issues, and it's sitting in his father's driveway waiting for you to come and get it, and that he never got $700 from his father for the car. That's his position, correct?
No, there's a correction. I did get $700 and paid him back the next day because the car broke down within a day.
Because what?
It broke down within a day.
Okay, so you did sell it to him?
Yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
Desiree Surratt has accused her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, of selling her car without her permission. Curtis claims he refunded the money, and she can take the car back.
Okay, so you did sell it to him.
Yes, yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Is the car still titled in your name?
Yes.
So go get it.
I don't want the car, no.
Well, it's your car. It's titled in your name.
Yes, but apparently I have text messages showing he sold the car without my permission.
Whether he did or not, well, he can't sell the car because title never transferred.
Right.
And he's saying you can go and get the car. It's sitting in the driveway. His father doesn't want it. Title didn't transfer. He didn't get money for the car and keep it. It was a sort of silly transaction because what you are suggesting is he should have said to his father, that's it, it was sold, it's sold as is. You can't have your $700 back.
Right, and my understanding is that his dad, through a conversation that I had with his dad did not get the money back.
You can't tell me about the conversation. If you have text messages between them, I would like to see them.
I do, yes. So there's those text messages. And I also have several text messages where Curtis agrees to pay me the money and also telling me the
This
car
is
ran
Desiree. Curtis said you would take possession of the Kia, but I asked about the title. Big Curtis, is that your father?
Your Honor, yes, it is.
Okie dokie. Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money.
That's correct.
And that it certainly wasn't a day, because 2 weeks later, he writes back, sorry, not good at checking my text. If we could arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. That's 2 weeks later. Your father didn't say to her, he gave me the money back. He said, I want the title. That's 2 weeks later. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
Well, Your Honor, there's one thing that we need to clear up right away is that it was never sold without her knowledge.
Just a second. Now what I'm asking you, sir, I'm saying that your original story to me was that I sold my father the car with her agreement. That's what you say here, for $700. He gave me the $700, but am I correct, Whitney, that the car broke down the next day?
He said the car broke down within a day.
Within a day, and so you gave him his money back. Well, that's not what your father says here, sir. That's not what your father says here.
I went back and forth with him for days, but I gave him his money back.
No, what you told me was a lie. You told me it broke down the day you gave him his money back. The initial conversation she had was May 9th. And then May 16th, she's having a conversation with Big Curtis. That's your father. Mm-hmm. Sorry for not checking my texts. Can you get me the title? Which means 2 weeks later, he wanted the title. And then your father says about you, Curtis owes me big-time money, and I can't get money from him either. That's your father.
Yeah, that's correct, Your Honor.
Big Curtis says to her, can you tell me what problem does Curtis have that caused him to spend massive amounts of money in such a short period of time? She answers, drugs, alcohol, gambling, he's a functional addict. He even got around $40,000 and he blew every penny. So the $700 you gave him for the car, I'm just going to file a small claims. For whatever reason, he's refusing to give it to me. It's not your fault that he stole the money from me. Just FYI, I have no issue giving you the title. Okay. So far, he owes you $700 for the car. And then we're finished. Get Big Curtis the title. Mail it to him. He sends you his address.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Great. Now you have a counterclaim, Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, Your Honor. I have some evidence I'd like to present.
Don't give me all that nonsense. You say that the plaintiff canceled a vacation trip. You made plane arrangements to take your children somewhere, and she took the children out of state. And car repairs that you gave her money for, car repairs, $250. I helped her repair her car and spent $250 on parts. When was that?
That was the car in question that we were just talking about.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
My parents helped me with the purchase of the kids' tickets.
Why?
Because I couldn't afford all of them.
Who was going on the trip?
It was going to be my wife, myself, and 2 kids.
Did you go on the vacation to Portugal with your wife?
No, we did not make it.
You did not make it?
Correct.
Why?
Because she is responsible of...
No, not her. not with your 2 kids. Did you go with your wife?
No, I didn't.
Why?
I didn't want to go without the kids. It was the whole purpose was to bring the kids to see the grandparents.
Does your wife work?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a bartender.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. Don't make any more private agreements with him, madam. I think it's a big mistake.
I
We're
agree.
done. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're
Your Honor.
finished.
Thank you.
We're
I
finished.
had one more.
I just ruled that your counterclaim is dismissed.
Your Honor.
You're finished.
I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get everything that I felt that I was owed.
Well, a bit disappointed. I felt like I had a lot more coming my way.
Number one, I will not do him any favors.
I've taken care of my kids financially for the last 7 years.
Especially of monetary value.
She feels entitled to 6 months, so be it, but I didn't agree to it.
I hope that this is kind of a wake-up call to him
It's completely ridiculous. I'm just tired of having my name dragged through the mud.
to do honest business, whether it's in personal relationship or business.
I take care of my kids.
He's got a long history of owing money, not paying it back.
Always have, and always will, regardless.
He runs through family and friends and dry your pocketbooks and laugh out the door. He doesn't care.
Claim money for a cell phone that, I bought. And, I think this is all to do with spite.
Just my kids. At the end of the day, whatever's best for them.
I just want to be there for the kids, and I just want to be done with the drama.
I have very little to say about that case, very little thoughts, except that Big Curtis, the defendant's father, doesn't like him.
I didn't get to read the messages, but
Clearly.
I'll
He
take
said,
your
what
word
is he
for it."
doing with all the money? My initial reading of that case was, maybe she's being unreasonable. She's really not being unreasonable.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's not a lot more to little Curtis than we were able to see
Yeah.
today.
Previously on Judy Justice.
We start arguing at this point, like we're both yelling at each other, it's getting heated. She then tells me that she's going to have some dudes come and beat me up. Gallo, out of nowhere, comes from a corner and tries to swing at me. She then lets these men inside the house. They're banging on my door, talk about bring your outside. All this mess, I immediately got everything that I could, and I booked a hotel at the Westin.
Claim is that during the time that you were in the hotel, there was damage done to the property.
Right.
This is the way you found it.
Yes.
Can you explain these photographs to me?
I can't explain the photographs. I didn't do it.
This is vandalism. Somebody took powder and liquid and broke mirrors. And quite frankly, I don't know this gentleman well, but he does not appear to be psychotic. Do you have any other proof that he caused this serious vandalism of his own house?
I do not have proof that he caused it, but I do have proof I was not there, and
I don't care whether you were not there or not. So I have to decide if it was a stranger, the plaintiff, or this side, maybe not you, but someone acting on your behalf.
And now, the conclusion. Carlos Guillen claims his former roommate, Nigel Pine, and her boyfriend, Gallo Jume, vandalized his property. Nigel is countersuing, claiming Carlos had her falsely arrested.
Okay, so if there is no other proof, what?
May I interject, please?
Sure.
Over the situation that he's trying to say that happened on the 27th, that even led to the whole craziness that we see in the photos over the vandalism, is a lie. And in his police reports, I don't know if he'll show you the police report or anything that happened, details and dictates everything of what the situation is.
May I see the police report?
He came to
Do
her.
you have the police report?
She has.
I was not able to get the police report because I am listed as a suspect. I'm not a
Let's
victim, so they wouldn't give it to me. But if I may interject, because you're gonna,
I'm reading something.
You're gonna need more information to understand.
These are all pictures of your room.
Yes, ma'am.
Ransacked.
Yeah, my room and then the living room as well.
The living room sofa, but this is your room.
That's my room.
This is your bed. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Yes, so Your Honor, as far as the room goes, I just want to add that there were multiple people living there. I moved in June while him and his family member went through an eviction process in April. So multiple people found out that we had to leave randomly. And so I wholeheartedly believe that someone else did this.
That's not true.
I can't
Don't interrupt her.
Sorry.
show you proof that he did it. To be honest with you, I don't know who did it, but I know I didn't, and I know he was with me as well. And
What about your brother? Was he with you?
My brother is.
I'm just asking you.
No.
What about your father? Was your father with you?
No.
Okay.
My father.
Just a second. I just asking you. The plaintiff said that there were 6 other people that came to the door. other than your brother, who else came to the door?
No one.
Okay, so your brother just came alone?
Yes, Your Honor.
And when he came, was the plaintiff still there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And he stayed when the plaintiff left?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, go through the timeline with me. He came because you called your father called your brother because you were having difficulty, okay? And your father sent your brother right over and said, you better get over there. She's having difficulty with this guy. You go over there and straighten it out, whatever it is. How old is your brother?
My brother is 22.
22.
Mm-hmm.
Big, little?
He's slightly taller than me. He is more built, maybe like the size of the bailiff, a little shorter.
Just a second. Okay, good. So when he came over, and you let him in?
No, he did not come in.
He did not come into the house at all?
Not until Carlos opened up the door.
Just a second, well, I'm asking you. He came into the house. Carlos opened up the door. Mm-hmm. Did your brother come into the house then?
Into the house, no.
Did he just stay in the front?
Yes, Your Honor. He stayed in the doorway.
Okay. There came a time that day that the plaintiff left the property. He went to stay at a hotel. He did not come home on that night of the 27th.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's clear. When he left, where was your brother?
I have no idea.
And I don't believe that your brother left you alone there before he left.
So
you have to understand, if your father sent your brother to be there to protect his sister from him...
There are things missing. And if you would allow me, I would like to tell you what actually happened that day, at least from my perspective, because it was never he left immediately. What happened was he came into my door at 7 o'clock in the morning, banging on my door, which I have a photo of the hole he put in my door, threatening me, asking me if Gallo was inside of the room. And he wanted to fight me and Gallo because Gallo told him to leave us alone. And he sent threatening texts to Gallo saying, I'm gonna beat you up and we could fade and bucko this, bucko that, all this. And he's like, you know, like that. I called Gallo like, hey, Carlos is banging on my door looking for you. He's like, yeah, I know. I saw the messages. I'm on my way. And I'm like, okay. So we're arguing. He's at my door. I call my dad because I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And he's like, oh, he gets upset. So he calls my brother. My brother, he happens to work in the West Side as a security guard. And he's like, well, Pops just called me. Do you need me to stop by?
I understand all that.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
So after he gets there, sees Carlos outside, I go downstairs after Carlos goes to his room, and I talk with my brother. And he's like, well, what's going on? And he's like, why he don't want to come outside? And yes, my brother was very upset because I told him, like, you know, this man was threatening me.
That's hearsay.
Yes.
That's hearsay.
So,
okay, let's understand something. This all came about, pay attention. This all came about because the two of you work in the same place. You had been living in the apartment for 3 months, and there had been no other police incidents up until this time. For 3 months. This incident, according to what I'm putting together, happened because after your boyfriend Gallo left and had a conversation with him about arguments that you had had with him, which you're not going to tell me about now because you're going to tell me that never happened. That's not something people make up. And he said he got into your business. That's what you felt. He got into your business.
No,
and
Your Honor,
just
that's
a
not what I
second.
felt.
Just a second. And then you were talking about it to people where you both work. You acknowledged that you were talking to people about it where you both work.
Yes, Your Honor.
He got angry that you were bringing stuff that happened at home to work, and he came to confront you. That's...
No, Your Honor, that's not. I have text.
That's exactly. Just a second. That's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened.
He came to my door because of these text messages. These text messages are time dated. He came to my door because he messaged him.
While I was at work over a dispute. It might have been about whatever the coworker said. He basically came to her door in his boxers.
No, listen to me. I'm making it simple, Gallo.
And so he texts Gallo, say, hey, G, I'm not fucking with her no more because she has an attitude problem. Gallo told the plaintiff, I see what you want, like you're a hater. And Carlos responded and basically said, I want to fade, I want to fight. And that is the morning he came banging to my door, which caused me to call my dad.
Defendant Nadia Pine has accused her former roommate, Carlos Guillen, of getting her falsely arrested. Carlos claims Nigel vandalized his property when he was gone.
It started because you told your girlfriend about the brief conversation you had with him after an argument. You say no, you're not going to say yes. Now you're still together, right?
We're
yeah,
together,
yeah,
but
still
that's
together.
Not the issue of
okay,
why we're here where we're at.
And she got annoyed because the person that she's renting a room from, who she works with, is telling her boyfriend, listen, you don't have to stand for that. You know, you got your whole life ahead of you. You know, move on with it.
Your Honor, that is not what happened.
Oh, really?
I'm begging you to listen to me.
Just show me.
He's not that type of person.
Gallo,
If
I may, so what I have in my hand is a message where he came.
Just show me. Don't read it.
May I? So if you see it, the first on the top page at the bottom, that message was birthed from him coming to my door while I was doing my hair and telling me to send him. He wanted to talk to. He has boxes on. He wanted to talk to me.
Just a second. What is this supposed to tell me?
I'm telling you right now, and then you read the message. I'm going to tell you the story that led him to say that last message. Because what happened was I'm sitting in my bed doing my hair, minding my business. He walks to my door with just his boxers on speakerphone with a female. He's like standing there in the doorway, and I look, and I'm like, what's up? I'm like, what's up? I'm like, all right, well, let me know when you're ready. And I closed the door in his face. Like, I closed it because he has his boxers on. He's standing there, and I'm minding my business doing my hair. So I basically tell him, you know, let me know when you are ready to talk because you're standing here in your boxers like I'm good. And so when I open the door after, he's like, all right, I'm ready to talk. He basically like, I'm not with your attitude.
Just a minute.
You don't slam the door in my face and all this other stuff. And so he texts Gallo that message you see there, say, hey, G, I'm not with her no more because she has an attitude problem. But I was upset because he was standing at my door in just his underwear. And so he texted him that. And then the next series of messages you'll see, Gallo told the plaintiff that basically you need to mind your business and I see what you want, like you're a hater. And Carlos responded and basically said, I want to fade. I want to fight. And you'll see those in the messages. He said, I want to fight. G, ain't got nothing to talk about. You're weird. All this buffoonery, the threats.
I don't have dates on this. Is this the 27th of August?
Yes, that is that morning.
The 27th of August.
That is that morning.
That's that morning.
And that is the morning he came banging to my door, which caused me to call my dad. He came to my door looking for Gallo to fight him.
I'm done with this case. I'm done. I'm done. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to hear your counterclaim. Right now, this is a disaster, including the cutting up of the couch. There's no question that all of those items are worth $10,000. Now we're going to hear your counterclaim. And your counterclaim is that you were arrested falsely, tampering with tires, lost wages, and cyberbullying. I've read the messages. They're nasty. People say nasty things. That's not cyberbullying.
No, there are more.
Well, I want you to circle the ones that you say was cyberbullying. Cyberbullying. Give her a pen, please, Kevin.
Thank you.
Don't give me anything that's not circled. Are you still living at the house, sir?
I have keys to the house, but
that's
I'm not
what I
living
asked you. Are you still living there?
there. No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm reading through these text messages. You said you can't fight stupid with stupid. Instead, I chose to remove my items and kick back in a 5-star hotel until my new place is ready.
Yes.
So you were moving into a new place.
I was, Your Honor, yes.
When did your lease start?
It would have started on September 10th, Your Honor.
Is the place furnished?
Not fully, Your Honor. No, I did get a new bed. That's about it, as far as furniture and a dresser, and like just the stuff I was able to save that she damaged at the home.
Just a second. Did you take the sofa?
No, I did not take the sofa.
Did you buy a new sofa?
No, I have a studio, so it can't fit.
So it doesn't fit?
No.
Anyway, so you were moving. So you purchased a new bed. Do you have the bill for the new bed?
Not on me, Your Honor, but it's
Well,
the
that's
same.
what, you know.
Yeah.
She may have destroyed all this stuff, but if you weren't taking the stuff with you anyway because you have a studio apartment,
Right. Yes, ma'am.
you had to buy a new bed. I could understand you not having this bed.
Right.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's not cyberbullying, any of this. It's nasty, but it's not cyberbullying. He does say in these emails, he came crying to me at 7 in the morning talking about how she beats him, calls him names, and says she wants him out of her life. I simply told bro not to worry about himself, to move on, just like any person with common sense would. This trick decides to go around my job and tell people I'm dirty. I don't pay my bills, and I'm trying to blank her man. All right, so I've just stricken cyberbullying. You have bill for the bed, sir. And if you don't, I'm going to allow you to tell me what you spent for it, because so far the $10,000 is coming down. How much was the bed?
$5,000, Your Honor.
Show me.
I didn't bring the receipt for the new bed. It
Well-
was just for that bed that she damaged. Because I have a Kelly King now. She damaged my queen. So I have the comp for the queen bed that it was.
Well, I'd like to see that bed, which I see here, so you're going to show me a comp to this bed. Okay, let's move to false arrest. Well, you were arrested in part for vandalism, is that correct?
No, Your Honor.
Well, that's what the police report says.
Well, honestly, I haven't been able to see the police report, but I know that based on what officer gave me, I was arrested for theft.
Okay, what I'm telling you was the police report says he reported that the suspect vandalized property, also that property was missing from his bedroom, but he is clearly accusing you of vandalism. And the report says a report of theft, but the officer clearly arrested you probably for both charges because the police report says vandalism, and I find that was a legitimate arrest.
No, Your Honor.
That's what I find.
Okay. And I go to my car to go to work, and all 4 of my tires were flat and bolts were missing.
So were the tires flattened and slashed?
To be honest, I don't know, but they said there were holes in it and they weren't patchable.
I don't believe in serendipity and coincidence. This is far too coincidental.
Defendant Nigel Pine has accused her former roommate, Carlos Guillen, of getting her falsely arrested. Carlos claims Nigel vandalized his property when he was gone.
Did you find that for me?
Yes, I have an image of it, Your Honor. So sorry. Here you go. That's the mattress that she damaged.
So you had a queen and you bought a split king, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I bought a Cow King, yes.
Okay, so that was $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And you left this bed here, or what did you do with it?
I had some people clean it, so.
You had what people clean it?
I called my maintenance people who helps out with the house and stuff, and he got some of his crew, and they cleaned out and cleared out the whole apartment, Your Honor.
Cleaned out the whole apartment?
Yes.
What did they do with the bed?
I believe they trashed it, Your Honor. I'm not sure.
You don't know. Do you have a bill from them?
From them, no, Your Honor.
You don't have anything. I mean, what is it that you have? You don't have a bill for a new bed.
Yeah.
You have a bed that you say is comparable. You don't have a bill from the people who cleaned out the apartment, because I assume somebody had to clean this apartment.
Right.
If you were moving out.
Right.
Well, right, I know I'm right. All right, I'm getting more disgusted with this case at every turn. Strike $10,000. Tell me about your tires. When did you find your tires
So the
tampered
27th,
with?
after the police left, after we agreed to peace, I went upstairs to go to sleep.
He was still in the house?
Yes, Your Honor.
On the 27th?
And when I woke up, I was getting ready to go to work. I noticed the electricity was off, which in those papers I gave you, he stated he turned off the electricity.
Yes.
Electricity was off. Everything was gone as well. Like, not everything, but like weird random things, like the microwave was gone. It was like a PS4 and like some like game setup thing that was gone.
Okay.
Like all the valuables were gone.
So he had taken some of his stuff out because he was moving.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he moved. Are you telling me he didn't move? Didn't move?
Not yet. No.
Oh, he's still there?
He was still there. But he
I mean,
took-
today, now. Is he there now?
Oh, no, Your Honor. But he was still there. Like, his things were still there.
Some of his things were still there, but he took some things with him.
He took.
When he left on the 27th.
With the things he claimed was valuable. Anyway, so I go downstairs and I go to my car to go to work because, like I said, I didn't think this would go any further, to be honest with you. And all 4 of my tires were flat and bolts were missing out of my tires.
You have photographs of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at it.
These repeats. Oh, this is one with the timestamp. Thank you.
And he was not there?
No, Your Honor.
So were the tires flattened and slashed, or were they?
To be honest, I don't know, but they said there were holes in it and they weren't patchable at all.
So they were holes in all
Yes,
4?
Your Honor.
Do you have the bills for 4 new tires?
No. I paid cash. I should have.
That doesn't mean
but-
whether you paid cash or not. It means we're not
Yeah,
talking about.
I
we're
wasn't
not
thinking
talking
about it,
about
but I do have a receipt for the tow.
the tow. I will take.
Which I ended up having. So we used Gallows AAA, and it was his 4th tow, so he wasn't going to be able to get another one after that. So I ended
up
just paying him for the extra tow, which is $90. And then I bought 4 new tires.
Well, I can't help you with the 4 new tires because
okay.
what you
I'm
come
fine.
here for is to prove to me any element of your claim. Right now, the plaintiff has not proven all the elements to his claim for $10,000. I believe he had to buy a new bed because that bed was destroyed, and I've already indicated who I believe is responsible for that. I do believe that he or somebody acting at his bequest, because I don't believe in serendipity and coincidence. This is far too coincidental. The damage to the home was far too coincidental to your argument with him, and the damage to your car is far too coincidental for me to be comfortable with. So I would, if you had a receipt, and we're not talking about years ago, we're talking about recently that you say you had to buy 4 new tires. Well, whether you pay cash or check for tires, you can get a receipt. And if you know you're coming to court, you're supposed to get a
didn't know.
receipt. The same thing I'm telling you.
I didn't know I was going to court. I thought it was all over with, to be honest.
Very, very good. Judgment for the plaintiff on the complaint. My original order was for $3,000. From that, I'm reducing it by $90, so it's $29.10. Judgment for the plaintiff. That disposes of the counterclaim. Thank you very much. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
He never lived there. We
I
don't
never lived
argue
with
like
her.
that.
We never argued. It never was a problem. He's basically, his issue was with her.
She's a hater, to keep it real with you. She assumed that I was trying to sleep with her man when I was just giving him evidence, so.
We have DMs, messages. He came to me talking about her, and I addressed him. That's my girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, there's text messages of him thanking me. So it's kind of weird how that played about, but I don't know.
He's tired of her, he's annoyed, and I'm like, that's not nothing that you should be telling me. You guys don't need to talk. She stays on the 3rd floor, you're at the bottom. Leave her alone.
I definitely did respond, letting him know that, if you're gonna go around saying that I'm trying to sleep with you and spread all these lies, then we can definitely have a conversation face to face. I did say that, yeah.
But he's already been treating her like this from the jump. And that's why I messaged him to basically leave her alone.
They definitely damaged his house. I've seen it for myself, so it's unfortunate how it ended, but we know the truth.
Honestly, you never want to hear from him.
I don't want to hear from him ever again.
I think you were right that there was far too many scenarios that lined up a little too perfectly around the same argument for it to be somebody else.
Some other dude did it. I'm sorry that the plaintiff didn't tell me he moved and was, in fact, moving within a couple of days into a studio apartment. That would have been interesting information to have right from the get-go. I don't know why I didn't have it. It just would have gone to the extent of damages. I mean, if he had to buy a new sofa, and certainly from the vandalism of that sofa he needed, but he didn't need a new sofa. He had a studio apartment. That doesn't give somebody the right to vandalize your property and to break things.
But the law is allowed to use common sense in determining damages, and I think your final ruling on canceling out the defendant's countersuit with the plaintiff's too large of an ask for damages was the right call.
You think so?
I think so.
You know.
I wish she had the receipt for tires. You could put two and two together that, okay, clearly.
Oh, I saw the photographs. The tires were clearly flattened, but you don't know if they were flattened as a result of somebody taking the plugs off them and just letting the air go out of them.
And without a receipt or without a mechanic's note.
Really don't know. And this all happened 2 months ago, so she should have the bills. Anyway, you try to use common sense. And when the physical evidence isn't there of who done it, you sort of try to piece together a scenario that makes sense. Unfortunately, now you have some text messages and you have emails that assist in that. Not everything is a picture.
Yeah.
More and more so, at least in the criminal system, it's becoming a picture because everybody has cameras all the time and there's cameras all over the place. But in these civil actions, very often there are.
Andrew Talon for the cost of a car he wrecked during an accident.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2163, Raquel versus Talon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rocco, this is basically what the case is about. You and the defendant were in a relationship. You have one child together. And it is your claim that some 3 years ago, he took your car with your permission. You were living together at the time. He took your car and had an accident.
Correct, yes.
And that was 3 years ago. And you want him to pay $5,000 on a car that Sarah has already checked, which is worth...
Between $1,400 and $3,000.
Which is worth a quarter of that. Do you understand?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I want you to forget about $5,000. So if he's responsible for anything for the car, he's responsible for what its value is, which is about $1,400. How long had you been living together when he borrowed the car?
About a year.
Okay. And was your child born during that time?
Yes.
What month and year was the child born?
August 2018.
When was the first time that you asked Mr. Talon for money for this car that had been in an accident?
After he was released from jail, he got arrested from a previous warrant at the scene of the accident, directly from the hospital. So when he was released from jail...
What was the date of the accident?
April 30th, 2019.
And how long were you held in jail, sir?
I believe June 11th or so, roughly almost 6 weeks.
What was the warrant for?
Domestic battery.
Against whom?
Against Eve.
Against her?
Against Eve. Yes, against her.
Well, you were living together. Did you file another complaint after the accident?
No, I didn't. There was a warrant from the initial complaint.
And what year was that?
That was around November of 2018.
But you remained living together and you had a child together. Why didn't you just withdraw that case?
I did withdraw it. I didn't realize that a warrant had been released until it was acted upon.
Well, when he was arrested and he was held in jail, he contacted you, correct?
Yes.
Of course he did, because he said, what's going on? We're living together. We have a child. What's this warrant for domestic battery?
It just took time for me to get it dismissed.
No. What I'm asking you is he contacted you.
Yes.
And when he was released in June of 2019, where did he go to live?
He came back.
For what period of time?
About a month, maybe 2 months at the most.
And you lived together as a couple with the baby?
Yes.
And how old was the baby at the time?
He would have been about between 6 and 8 months off the top of my head.
And the two of you cared for him?
Yes.
And during that 2 or 3 month period, there was no discussion that you have in writing about paying back for the car?
Not in writing.
Not in writing?
Yeah.
Now, what happened after the 2 months?
He began exhibiting behaviors that were the behaviors of somebody who was using drugs. Again, he was clean for a long period of time, and his attitude changed, his behaviors changed, and I decided that it was time for him to go back to his mother's house.
And he did?
Correct, yes.
It was after a couple of months?
Yes.
So that would have been in maybe August or September. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in August or September. Did he continue to see his son?
He did, yeah. I would bring Eden down to his mother's house for them to have visits together. His mother has always been a safe spot for them to visit.
And how long did you do that?
Up until recently. For pretty much
recently, so you're talking about 19, 20, 21?
Yes.
Right? And
there was a period of time where, because he was living with his mother at first, there was a period of time where I didn't know where he was living. It made me uncomfortable that I was bringing my son, even though they were visiting at his mother's house. It made me uncomfortable that he wouldn't let me know an address for him just in case anything happened, just in case, anything happened, basically. He didn't give me an address for me to find him or for me to know where Eden might be if anything were to happen.
So what I'm getting is for 3 years after this accident, there was no request that you can demonstrate. Now, you weren't together, certainly, so for the last 2 years, you never went and filed claiming that he owed you money for the car.
So I did. Sorry.
Is that correct?
No, I did attempt to file several times, but I didn't have an address for him. I tried to file once for an address where he was at his mother's.
Do you have any proof of that?
I do not.
No. You continued to bring your son for visitation with his father.
Correct.
Which is a very easy thing to do. You're a smart enough gal. I'm gathering that. You bring a friend, you serve him personally with a summons and complaint. So the answer is for 3 years you did nothing. Now I'm going to find out why. After 3.5 years, you filed this complaint over a $1,400 car. The child is no longer in your custody.
Temporary.
The child is no longer in your custody. The child is in the physical custody of the paternal grandmother, and that is by court order.
Yes.
And they found that the child would be at risk in your custody.
Yes.
Eve Rockhill claims her ex-boyfriend, Andrew Talon, owes for totaling her car. Andrew is countersuing for emotional distress and attorney fees after Eve took their son.
Okay. You bring a friend, you serve him personally with a summons and complaint. So the answer is for 3 years you did nothing. Now I'm going to find out why. After 3.5 years, you filed this complaint over a $1,400 car. Now, Mr. Talon says in his cross-complaint that there came a time when you left the state, the jurisdiction, that was the child's home state.
Yes.
And when did you leave the jurisdiction?
That was in September of 2021.
And you went from where to where?
We went from Florida. We stopped in South Carolina for a period of time. We had a little vacation before we had to go, because we were going to work. We were going to clear a property out for sale.
So you left the jurisdiction with the child?
Yes.
Prior to that, Mr. Talon had been seeing the child regularly at his mother's house?
Yes.
Did you tell him you were leaving?
Yes.
What did he say when you told him you were leaving?
He didn't really say anything. He just wanted to spend time with him, which he was, they did spend time together before we left.
Not before. After you left, you moved to New Jersey.
I didn't move. I didn't move to New Jersey.
What did you do?
So, like I said, we went there to liquidate a house that we have there. It took longer than expected.
How long?
It took about 5 months, 6 months. Things happened with the closing. Deals were made and fell through.
How long did you tell him you were going to be away?
I was only supposed to be away for 2 weeks.
That's a big deal, Miss Rockhill. That's a big deal.
It is.
Because if he says, I'm taking Eden for a 2-week vacation, if that's okay. I know you took him away. I'd like to take him away for a 2-week holiday, and he goes away for 6 months. You wouldn't like that.
I would not.
You would not. Well, he's a parent just like you are. That's what the law says. The law says men, women treated just about equally when they have a child. If you said to him, I'm going away for 6 months, and he said, okay, well, then you agree to. But you said, we'll be away for 2 weeks. And it lasted longer.
Yes,
And during the time that it lasted longer, about 6 months longer than it was supposed to, what arrangements did you make for your son to see his father?
They had video calls regularly. I told him I would be back as soon as I could.
Just a second. So the answer is you did not make any, because he has a counterclaim here.
Yes.
And his counterclaim is for the fact that you took the child out of the jurisdiction and deprived him of the ability to see the child. Subsequently, due to circumstances, and I'm not sure what that is, the child is no longer in your custody.
Temporary.
The child is no longer in your custody. The child is in the physical custody of the paternal grandmother. Is that correct? And that is by court order?
Yes.
The beginning of that process was made in what month and year?
July of 2022.
Was that a child protective proceeding?
It was, yes.
And I assume that if there was a child protective proceeding, that the court found that based upon whatever was alleged in the petition that was not brought by him, but by the Department of Social Services or Child Welfare Administration. They found that the child would be at risk in your custody.
Yes.
And as a result of that, they took the child into care. And this is all stuff, because I've been here. This is my bread and butter. Instead of placing the child in a strange foster home, they placed the child with the defendant's mother.
Correct.
For how long a period? 18 months?
Indefinite. There's no specified period of time. However,
well, they have to, if the court is placing a child through the state, unless you relinquish your parental rights. Did you do that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Unless you relinquish your parental rights or the court terminated your parental rights, they have to review this case periodically to see whether either one of you, as parents, are ready to assume custody of the child. Right? So when is this case going to be reviewed?
I believe the next review is in February.
February of this year?
This year, correct, yes.
That's a reasonable answer, so that you do know. So that's the change in circumstance. Now, getting back, Ms. Rockhill, to what motivated you after 3 years, after you gave him permission to drive the car and he had an accident, and you made up this whole baloney story in your complaint that says, police arrested Andrew at the scene of the accident because I had previously filed a domestic abuse charge against him and there was a warrant. But you were living together during the time that there was this outstanding warrant. You were living together and conceived a child with him.
The child was already conceived. He was already born at the time of the domestic violence altercation. He was about
2018?
In the end of 2018, yes. He was born in August. The altercation happened in November. So he was very young.
But you reunited and were living together with him as a family.
Yes.
Right. The police arrested Andrew on a domestic abuse charge, and there was a warrant. When Andrew was released from jail, he disappeared.
So
that's what, just a second. That's what you say here. He disappeared. My car was fully paid off, and I had no liability insurance. Andrew refused to pay for my total car, and he refused to see our son. He moved and went into hiding. That's what you signed. That's your complaint. I tried to file a small claims case against him several times, but could not find his current address. Well, that's not true. You knew exactly where he was until you moved out of the jurisdiction to New Jersey for 6 months, because he had been regularly seeing his son at his mother's house.
But he wasn't living at his mother's house.
It doesn't make any difference. That's not what you say here. He may not have been living there. He may not have wanted you to know where he was living.
He didn't, and that's
well,
why. So I
that's
filed
okay.
Against
he doesn't have to tell you where he's living. Unless a judge orders him, he doesn't have to tell you where he's living. You were having visitation at his mother's house. So all of this stuff after the accident is all a bunch of baloney. So did there come a time when you were concerned that your son was using drugs? That's either a yes or a no. Yes. And was it at that time that you suggested she come and pick up Eden?
I told her to pick him up from school. I didn't tell her to come pick up Eden and take off for 5 months.
Eve Rockhill has accused her ex-boyfriend, Andrew Talon, of totaling her car. Andrew claims Eve kept him from seeing their son.
You knew exactly where he was until you moved.
I didn't, though. He was not living at his mother's house at the time. That was just a place that he was visiting with Eden that I would bring him to.
Perfect. So you would set the terms of that, and the terms were that he could see the child even without a court order because he was his father and had lived with him after he got out of jail.
Yes.
Lived with him, but you don't say here, after he got out of jail.
But I didn't put that.
I don't think you have a case. He drove the car with your permission. You were living together as a couple. You have a child together. Your case is dismissed. Now, I want you to tell me, sir, you have a counterclaim for her kidnapping your son. She left the jurisdiction. You called Child Protective Services.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me when you called Child Protective Services, because that's the reason that this lawsuit came about.
The last time I saw him before she left to stay with him was September 19th. Me and my family, we went to SeaWorld, and she was supposed to meet me. She said when we dropped off that she was going to meet me in Tampa. And when I called her, she said that she was in Jacksonville. She lives in Ocala, so she was still 2 hours northeast of where she lived, and she wasn't in Tampa. So I just decided to take him home rather than argue. I took him home, and the house was just disgusting. Beer cans filled up in the in the trash cans. It just the living conditions were troubling.
Was there a neglect proceeding?
For this?
The baby.
I had an interview with the caseworker or the investigator initially.
Were you there in court when your mother was granted? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Miss Rockhill?
Yes, she was there too.
You see your son regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
So the period of time when you did not see him was a 6-month period, is that right?
That was the second time. Yeah, it happened the year prior. She did it before too, where she removed him from school. Since I moved home in 2019, we've shared custody periodically until she decides that she wants to take him and not allow me to see him or for whatever. I think it's a control thing. And this was the second time. My counterclaim is for the second time.
How long was the first time?
Roughly the same time, 5 months, 6 months.
Where did you go the first time?
I didn't go anywhere. I actually received a text from his mother, Angel, to come pick up Eden. Andrew was using drugs again, and come pick up Eden would be easiest to do it while he was at school to avoid potentially traumatizing Eden.
Did you send that email?
I did not send her an email, no.
Not a text message.
I sent her a text message.
Okay, just a second. You're his mother. Come. You sent her a text message. That's not something that she would make up because I'm going to ask to see it. She's going to show me. So did there come a time when you were concerned that your son was using drugs? That's either a yes or a no. Yes. And was it at that time that you suggested she come and pick up Eden?
I told her to pick him up from school. I didn't tell her to come pick up Eden and take off for 5 months.
I didn't take off.
Okay, but you told her to pick him up from school.
Yes.
He knew where to find me. I was at the same address. I didn't leave anywhere. He's known where we've lived the entire time. He could have come up and seen him. We could have met somewhere. I
don't know. You did, in fact, remove him the second time for 6 months.
The second time, yes. I not purposefully to keep him away from Andrew. We had business to attend to, and it ended up taking a lot longer than it
Now you see him.
should have.
Now you see him all the time. Is that right?
I live back at home again. Once this happened, because...
Just a second. So you live back at home with your mother?
Yes, I see him every day.
Since when?
I've been living back at home for, I think, roughly a month or so.
Where are you working?
I work for a solar company.
For how long?
I went to jail for DUI last year. I got out. That's why I'm having to do the case plan because of my DUI. That was in August 1st is when I started this job.
Okay, you working?
I am, yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a dental assistant.
Did you have a trial in the family court?
Not yet. We're still awaiting adjudication.
A full custody?
Yes.
But the child is with you under the auspices of Child Protective Services?
Yes, her trial is the 13th of February.
For the neglect case?
Yes.
Is that correct? You have a lawyer there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Your case against the respondent for the damage to the car 3 years ago is dismissed. Likewise is your action against her for attorney's fees, the custody. Are you appearing in that custody case?
I'm almost complete with my case plan. I will be there for that. Yes, ma'am.
Good. So I suggest we not say anything nasty about each other,
Yes, ma'am.
because there is always that strong probability that you're going to have to co-parent this child.
It's never been a problem in the past.
Good. Very good. Case is dismissed. We're done.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't want to be a part of his life. I want him to have a part of his child's life, as I always have and have always done my best to make sure that he has.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think she was maybe he was just trying to get back at me, maybe not.
Unfortunately, circumstances arose that I wasn't expecting.
I feel like sometimes our son was used in a way to hurt me.
Things happened with the sale of the house and the closing of the house. Deals were dropped. We were just trying to get rid of it, and it took longer than expected.
It's hard to see the fighting and the, just the separation of the family.
I was just worried. I was in mom mode, and I was worried because I know what he's capable of. I've been exposed to him while he was exhibiting behaviors that would be damaging and traumatizing to Eden.
It's my past. It's true. I'm not the same person, but
I just want to be the best parent I can be.
I hope we can parent our son together.
Sarah, there are lots of tentacles in that case.
There were?
Yeah. But if you try to take all those tentacles that we really don't have jurisdiction over, I think that they said that custody is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
If you remove all those tentacles, there was an accident 3 years ago. And despite the fact that she really knew where he was, where he could be served, because she regularly brought the child over to him. And he said that for a good part of that time, she had 50-50 custody.
Mm-hmm.
She was perfectly comfortable with Eden staying with his paternal grandmother. Case was really about this car.
Yeah.
And he had an accident 3 years ago. They lived together, they slept together, they shared a child together. And now that he notified Child Protective Services of what he saw when he brought the child home, and she physically lost custody after an investigation, that's the motivation for filing this now. She waited too long. He had her permission, drove the car. As far as I'm concerned, the only person that I ever feel sorry for in these things.
Jasmine Jones is suing her ex-boyfriend, Joshua Caldwell, for the costs of a French bulldog.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2120, Jones versus Caldwell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Jones, you and the defendant were in a romantic relationship that started about a year ago, more than a year ago. And then you decided to do one of the most foolish things that people do when they sort of fall in love, sometimes temporarily. You decided to buy a dog together. According to you, the relationship went south, and now we have this adorable dog that you want back. You say the dog is really yours. You were the one who was its primary caretaker. You paid for a vet bill. Mr. Caldwell said that's not the case. The dog was always supposed to be his. He purchased it. And it's your argument that if Mr. Caldwell is allowed to keep the dog, that you be reimbursed for the vet bills that you paid.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you and Mr. Caldwell live together?
Yes.
From when to when?
From February 1st of this year to September 3rd.
And in what month did you decide to get the dog's name is Scrappy?
Yes.
Scrappy.
We got Scrappy January 18th.
So before you moved in together?
Yes.
Where were you living?
I was going back and forth from my mom's house to Joshua's. I already had a key in January. I was staying there.
Okay, but you were living with your mother.
Yes.
In January.
Yes.
And who was the breeder of this dog? Did you buy the dog from the breeder or from?
From the breeder, Andrew.
Now, Andrew was sitting over there on the defendant's side, so I assume that Andrew was a friend of your boyfriend's.
Yes.
Stand up, Andrew. I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
That's Scrappy.
Yes.
Scrappy is about 8 months old?
He just hit a year about 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh, so still a puppy.
Yes.
Looks very healthy. When Scrappy was purchased, was the amount paid for him the same as was paid for the other dogs in Scrappy's litter?
No.
How many puppies were in the litter?
5.
Did you charge Mr. Caldwell or Miss Jones for Scrappy?
Mr. Caldwell.
How much did you charge him?
$3,000, Your Honor.
Who paid you?
Joshua.
Mr. Caldwell, did he pay by check or cash?
Cash and Zelle payments.
Did you ever see Miss Jones in the purchasing process?
Yes, I seen her.
Tell me about it.
At the time when they came to pick up the dog, she was his girlfriend, but there was no connection with me.
Was that the first time you had met her?
I've seen her around because we would work at the gym together. We're both personal trainers, so I would see her around the gym sometimes.
Had you discussed with your friend Joshua?
Yes.
While you were working with him in your personal training at the gym, had you discussed with him getting a dog?
Yes.
When?
I can't recall the exact date, but I know that he had seen that I had bought my dog and that I was getting into the business. So he contacted me early in, say, 2020, stating that, hey, I want to eventually, when you have a litter, get one of your dogs from you.
Do you remember what month that was in?
I'd say, well, Scrap was born October 2021. So around then, maybe a couple months before, when I let him know that the female was pregnant. So maybe around July, August.
Okay, of 2021.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so that was well before the two of you lived together.
Yes.
Did you ever hear from Miss Jones? Did she ever call you before you saw her when they both came to pick up Scrappy?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you can sit down now. Cute. Miss Jones, who paid for Scrappy?
Me and Joshua.
Show me.
I have here Zelle and Venmo payments to Joshua. The first one is in February, and then he didn't start asking me for large amounts.
Hold on one second. Hold on. These don't look like anything like payments for the dog. What are those payments? $100, $500, $350 in June? What were those for?
They were all payments towards Scrappy. He started asking me for $200, $350 at that time.
You mean after you already had the dog?
Yeah.
Because you got the dog.
Yeah, but he didn't pay for him straight up. And his friend told us that we could pay for him at will He didn't give him money the first day that we picked him up.
Okay, I'll go back to you. How much money did Mr. Caldwell pay on the day he picked up the dog?
$0.
When was the first time he made a payment? Now you could stand up again.
He made a payment shortly after, within the first month, of about $300.
So in January, he made first payment
Of $300.
And in January, there is no Zelle payment from you at all. When was the next payment? Do you recall?
I believe in March he paid another $200.
Well, do you have records of what you paid, sir?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. I just want to see what you paid and when you paid it. By the way, while he's looking for that, when you lived with Mr. Caldwell, did you both contribute to the rent?
My contribution to the rent was paying for the groceries, so I have all my receipts.
So the answer is you did not pay rent.
That was our deal.
But the answer is you did not pay rent.
No, ma'am.
Did you pay any utilities?
Only when he asked me for extra money to pay his phone bill or to pay for the Wi-Fi sometimes.
And when you paid for these extra things, Wi-Fi or his phone bill, did you pay by cash or did you pay by...
The extra charges in there that I didn't highlight, the ones that are $20, $30, those are for gas. The $70 one is for his card.
Well, I just want to know how you know the payment in July for $200, what it was for.
I was only giving him money at that time. For Scrappy, he started asking me for large amounts of money for him. So that's when I gave him those. He didn't ask me for anything towards bills for that apartment.
Is Scrappy totally paid for?
No.
How much is owed?
$2,300.
So the only amount that was paid so far was $700.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is what happens, because relationships come and go. You know, 50% of the marriages in this country fail. So why would you think a relationship is going to last as long as a French bulldog?
Jasmine Jones claims her ex-boyfriend, Joshua Caldwell, owes for the costs of a French bulldog. Joshua is countersuing for vandalism and an assault.
Okay, and this is an agreement that I, Joshua Caldwell, have agreed to buy Kashmir.
That was his name originally.
From Frederick Wright. Once the dog's paid in full, I will receive full ownership rights. Frederick Wright will remain the rightful owner of Kashmir until I complete $3,000 in payments, right?
Correct.
And both of you signed this, and this was in January of 2022. That's a reasonable... What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing. I'm just like, when did he even sign that? Because I was with him the day that we picked him up, and he never showed me any contract.
Well, but this is reasonable because he's not transferring any rights to him. He's going to remain the owner. He's the owner of the dog until the full amount is paid for the dog of $3,000. Right now, he said that the only thing was paid was $700. Go ahead. Now I'll hear you. Now I got it. Now you can sit down.
When I was present for us picking up Scrappy and purchasing him, it was word of mouth contract. There was no paper signing at all. He didn't even show me a paper.
And?
And he showed me him. He asked me if I liked him. I said yes. And he said he would go half on him with me.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And it was that same day. I get off of work. He picks me up. We go see Scrappy. Didn't know we were going to get him that day. We ended up getting him that day. He tells me, okay, it's just going to be $3,500. They walk to the back of the room and start talking and making an agreement. Come back out.
So just a second. So they went in the back of the room. You were not there. That's what you just told me. They went in the back to make an agreement, and then they came out. That's what...
He tells me it's going to be $3,500. They walk to the back of the room, make an agreement.
Right. Go ahead.
And then he comes back and we take Scrappy home. The next day, he texts me early in the morning and tells me that Scrappy might have gotten a bee sting or something because he was limping and he doesn't know what happened. I picked him up from his job that afternoon after I got off of work.
Okay, so you picked up the dog from his work.
Yes, picked him up and I went straight to my mom's house to get clothes because I was going back to his house. And I was examining Scrappy, no swollen paw, no bee sting. Then he said that he probably clipped his nail on the tile, and I'm just like looking at his paw, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it, but he's limping. Those were his stories. Still don't know what happened. Scrappy wasn't showing any signs of like pain, he was just limping. So I was like, we need to take him to the vet, like he needs to get checked out.
So you took him to the vet? Okay,
Yes.
and?
The vet ended up telling us that he had a fracture.
You can't tell me what the vet told you. I'll look at the records from the vet.
Okay, sorry. I have the vet bills and the reports right here.
Did you pay any part of these vet bills, sir?
Yes.
Which parts?
I didn't have any record of it because I didn't see it coming. I honestly didn't know what happened to his elbow. Andrew was there as well. We were both kind of like, we don't know. So I found out after going to the vet that Frenchies have a ligament in their elbow, and this happens often.
No one is suggesting that anyone abused the dog.
Okay. Oh, I'll just.
That's not the suggestion. My question was a simple one. Did you pay any of these vet bills? They're about $1,600.
Yes. I just don't
How much
have
did you
any
pay?
record of it.
What?
'cause
He's lying.
I didn't ask you to interrupt. You have to understand, Miss Jones, you can't have this dog. First of all, this dog doesn't belong to either one of you. This dog belongs to him until the dog is paid for. So far, all he's gotten for the dog is $700. $500 of that he paid for. But right now, I can't award ownership of the dog. There's a contract that until this dog is paid for, the dog belongs to Mr. Wright. First name?
Frederick.
Frederick. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Simple. So you have a friend who has Frenchies, then I suggest that you go with your original plan, which is to buy a dog yourself.
Not
Now,
the same.
you have no proof that you paid any of these vet bills.
I just have the medicine with my name on it.
Well, the medicine with your name on it doesn't help. $1,600 in vet bills. And you have physical custody of the dog now, right?
Right.
And your agreement with Mr. Wright is that you don't get ownership of that dog until the dog is paid for. Yeah, I mean, I can't enforce your contract with regard to Miss Jones. The dog was not paid for.
I've already offered to pay him for the remainder of whatever Josh hasn't paid him.
The contract is with Mr. Caldwell, not you. So that's what happened when foolish young people decide to own a dog together. And they're not married, they don't even live together. This is what happens, because relationships come and go. You know, 50% of the marriages in this country fail. So why would you think a relationship is going to last as long as a French bulldog? It's sort of ridiculous, and I've advised against it for the last 25 years. Nobody wants to heed this. So I'm faced with a situation where, when did the two of you break up?
I left on September 3rd.
Well, now we're a couple of months, but...
She didn't leave. She had to be, well, this is going to go into the assault charge.
I don't...
But
listen,
she had
I
to
don't
be
care.
escorted
I don't
out.
care, whatever.
I
don't care. You want
clothes.
I'll get to the counterclaim in a second. I will give it the same attention as I've given her claim for the dog. She's not getting the dog back. You have to, however, pay her the $1,600 that she paid for the vet. Do you understand? So that part of your petition is granted. Was the bill all paid?
I'm still paying it off currently. We both agreed to apply for care credit together, and whoever...
But it's your bill that you have to pay. If you work in accounting, you have a check, you don't want that garnished, so you have to pay it.
I am paying it.
You have to pay it. Okay. And he's going to reimburse you for that, $1,600. All right, now let's get to this counterclaim and make short shrift of it. Money owed for assault and vandalizing personal belongings. Let's start with the assault. Allegedly, the assault took place when the plaintiff came home intoxicated.
I'm a kickboxer. On September 3rd, she came to my fight, and she dropped me off at home.
That's a lie.
If you say it again, what I'm going to do, if you interrupt Miss Jones, again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dismiss your claim, and you'll pay for these vet bills yourself. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead.
She didn't like the people that was at my fight there, and so she had a couple drinks. She got to my house, and she started to fight with me, and I tried to remove myself from the fight, and then she started getting violent. So then I called her family to come pick her up, and they showed up maybe an hour later. In that hour, I tried to remove myself to another room. She went and got scissors and started to cut my shoes up. Then I had to try to grab my shoes and scrap and go into the opposite room, and she came in there and was trying to fight me. All the while all this happening, I'm recording her on video to make sure that I'm...
You have that recording?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
This would be me asking her just to leave. This whole thing is out of retaliation. What are you about to do? Why are you hitting me in the face?
Record me? Because I want my dog?
Fighting me. She won't stop fighting me. I've asked her to leave.
Explain that to me.
Jasmine Jones is accusing her ex-boyfriend, Joshua Caldwell, of owing vet bills for a French bulldog. Joshua is countersuing, claiming Jasmine assaulted him.
Okay. You have that recording?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
This would be me asking her just to leave. This whole thing is out of retaliation.
Why are you hitting me in the face? Record me? Because I want my dog?
Fighting me. She won't stop fighting me. I've asked her to leave. Your stuff is in bags.
You're such a... Josh.
Okay. There you go again. There you go again. On camera hitting me. On camera hitting me. On camera. You see her hitting me? There you go.
Explain that to me.
I wasn't dropping him off. We were still...
I don't care what you're dropping off. Explain that video to me.
I was pushing the phone out of my face because he had me on live and was saying my full name. He cut off parts of it.
No, I just want to know what happened here. This was clearly you were going after him. I don't know whether you...
knocking the phone out of his hand because he was saying my full name, saying I was crazy. I had already packed my stuff. I was leaving. We walk in the house. He calls me a dumb bee and then goes straight to the bathroom. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave. Like, I'm not gonna deal with this. I had Scrappy by my side. I was packing what I could, taking it downstairs. I walk back up. He goes, oh, you're leaving? And he snatches Scrappy and locks him in the bedroom. And then when he goes to open the door is when I barge in. I'm just like, give me my dog so I can leave. And
well, I want to know what the violent stuff was about.
He was recording me, saying my name.
He was recording you.
Saying I was crazy and I wouldn't get out of the house. And I was like, stop recording me. And I was just hitting the phone out of his hand. I never once put my hands on him. He's already hit me and choked me in the past, so I would not go there to provoke him to hurt me again.
Did you ever report to anyone that he hurt you?
I told my mom.
Did you ever report?
No, I didn't.
Mr. Caldwell, were you injured?
I mean, I'm a fighter. I'm not gonna...
Were you injured is my question.
No.
Her family came?
Yeah.
The police were not called. You called her family instead. Did you pick her up? Stand up, please. You're a mother?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And this incident happened on what date when he called you?
It was about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
On...
Shh. Don't interrupt. On what date?
Labor Day.
Did you go to Mr. Caldwell's home?
Yes, I did.
What time did you get there?
Probably almost 4.
Had Mr. Caldwell ever called you before with regard to picking up your daughter, or that she was... No.
No.
So this was a first?
Yes.
Now, when you got there, I want you to describe what you saw.
She was crying, she was upset, and I told her, come on, let's just go. And she said, no, I want to get my dog. I can't leave my dog here. He's been violent in the past. I've seen it. I told her, don't ever leave him with him again after a beach incident where he, like, hit him. I mean, he's a kickboxer, like he said. He doesn't hit the dog like a normal person would just tap a dog. No, this was back in July. He was a puppy. He was a baby. And I was so furious when I saw that. He only did it because the dog snapped at him, because he was angrily packing him up into a dog carrier.
Would you do me a favor? Would you describe to me your daughter's condition?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Describe to me. You have to understand. Your daughter cannot get the dog. The dog does not belong to the defendant.
Okay.
The dog belongs to Mr. Wright.
What happens to the $1,310 she spent for the dog?
Well,
she sent that money to him.
I have to tell you something. I don't see anything in your daughter's evidence that suggests to me that any payments that she made to him had anything to do with the dog. Anything to do with the dog. Mr. Wright was very clear. He said he received $700 for the dog. There were 2 payments that were identified in his register as payments for Scrappy. There is absolutely nothing in your daughter's register that she gave me of these odd payments of $160 or $70 say Scrappy on it. Not one. So I've already made a determination of where the dog is staying. The dog is staying wherever Mr. Wright wants the dog to stay, because he owns the dog.
Okay.
Understand?
Yes.
So now that's your daughter's case. I finished that part of the case. What I want to know is he has a counterclaim, and his counterclaim was that your daughter, while in an intoxicated state, assaulted him. Some of that I saw on this video. Some of it you saw on the video. Mr. Caldwell was honest, because it doesn't look as if he was injured as a result of that, and I'm absolutely not discounting the fact that no one should put their hands on somebody else, but an assault requires an injury. And so if this is is that dog sleeping?
No,
That is so
He
funny.
grunts all the time.
That is so funny. So, Mr. Caldwell, can you show me what damage you allege Miss Jones caused your property? That's the next thing. Well, you said an assault, which never happened because there was no physical injury. Would you mind telling me, please, what property specifically and photographs of that property?
I'll have it.
Okay, so your counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600 for the vet bills that she paid or is obligated to pay on her credit.
It's not assault unless I get hurt.
Yes, it's not an assault unless there is an injury.
So if I was
that it's an
drunk, beating
attempt.
her up at
Wait
her
just a
house?
second. That's an attempted, sir. It's an attempted assault. Do you understand? If an assault has a specific definition, I believe she probably attempted to assault you when she touched you in an unauthorized manner.
She was punching me in the face. That's not a...
Show me picture of any injury. Show me. No, I didn't see that in the video, sir. I saw her lunging towards you. Do you understand? I saw her lunging towards you.
All right.
I didn't see her hit you. I didn't see a photograph of any injury. I didn't see a police report where you reported any injury.
Report incidents where her being drunk and fighting other men.
Oh, okay. Did you understand what I said? An assault requires injury. An attempted assault does not. And attempted assault is a crime. But it's a crime which I choose, because of the circumstances here, not to consider and not to award you any cash award because you were not injured in any way. So unless you have photographs of the pair of shoes that you say she cut or something else, I'm dismissing your counterclaim. We got it? Good. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Scrappy was not just like a dog or a pet, like he was my support.
I mean, it was fair. Obviously, she had nothing to do with the dog.
It's expected because he lied the entire time that we were together.
And that's a lie.
Him not to have given him any of the money that I put towards Scrappy.
She literally just got all the transactions that we've ever done between each other on Venmo or Zelle and brought that to court.
Now I just think like he was pocketing that money the entire time.
And that's why it was dismissed, because it wasn't valid at all.
I disagree with you a little bit on the countersuit of the assault charge. I have a more, I guess, broad overview since I'm just out of school with the common law. So assault versus battery, as far as I learned, was assault was just the imminent threat of a harm. You're fearing for your life or offensive contact of some sort, whereas battery is the actual offensive touching. There has to be some sort of contact. So if we're ruling by common law, which I know we're not bound by any particular state's jurisdiction, I would have awarded him something for the assault claim.
My training is in New York, and in New York there is no crime of battery. My training was it's assault, and for an assault there has to be a physical touching and injury, and an attempted assault is placing someone in fear of imminent physical injury. I think you're probably right that there are jurisdictions that are different. We didn't actually see any contact between her and him.
And he was
We
honest.
saw,
He said,
yeah.
you know, obviously I didn't have any injuries, but...
Right, just as he didn't have any evidence to support the fact that she had destroyed or damaged some of his personal property. Unfortunate.
Princess Davis is suing photographer Tavares Long for breaking their photo shoot agreement.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2013, Davis versus Long.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Davis, what do you do for a living?
I'm a language interpreter.
For whom?
For hospitals or law offices.
Is it your own business?
Yes.
What languages do you speak?
Spanish and Portuguese.
Tell me how you met Mr. Long, who was a photographer.
I met Mr. Long as part of a social cycling group that I'm a part of. And so they have weekly cycling rides, and he's always there, and I'm usually there too.
So according to what I read in your complaint, you got to chatting with Mr. Long, and sometime in October of 2021, so not quite a year ago, the two of you discussed him taking photographs of you to be used on his website, on his business website. That's a photography website, sir?
Yeah, but we didn't discuss, we just discussed doing a photo shoot together. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Don't say no unless,
Yeah, I mean.
I already live with people who say no just to say no. You discussed taking photographs of her for your website, doing a photo shoot, and in exchange for that, she would get a free copy of the photographs. That's what you discussed?
Yes.
That a fair statement?
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
Of some of the photos, yes.
No, I don't think that you said some of the photos. You said, you sit for a photo shoot for me, that I can use the pictures on my website.
That's not what.
Well, are you in the business of photography?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that how you make your living?
Yes, ma'am.
People paying you to take pictures of their wedding, communion, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Right? Anything else? Birthday parties. And in order to do that, you have to show off your best work.
Yes.
And if you ask a model to do that, so that you could use a model, just as you get paid for your work, so would the model.
Right.
So what you did with her was barter. You bartered her time in sitting for a shoot for her to get something in return, which were copies of the photographs. That doesn't mean that she owns them. You were free to use them on your webpage, on your business webpage. Am I outlining your case?
Yes, more or less.
Okay, so now I will summarize what the case is about. According to what I've read, the two of you looked at the photographs and you picked out about 30 that you liked, according to somebody. He got you the 30 pictures, but then you saw a picture, don't shake it, you saw a picture that you didn't have that was posted on his website that he hadn't given you.
Well, he hadn't given me any of the pictures. I was able to view some.
With 30 photographs downloaded so that you could see them on your computer.
No, he sent me a Google Drive link for 29 photos.
Okay.
That I couldn't download. I could only view.
Okay. Did you tell him that you couldn't download them?
Yes.
Did he repair that?
No.
So now you want to be compensated to the tune of $2,500 for using your pictures on social media. That's what you asked for in your case.
Yes, for using them to promote his business.
That's okay. Well, you knew he was going.
I did.
Okay, Miss Davis, you knew that he was going to use the photographs to promote his business. That was your contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that's a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your contract. Your complaint is that he did not fulfill his entire end of the bargain by getting you copies of all the pictures.
Yes.
Okay. And you have a nonsense counterclaim, Mr. Long, because you want money for compensation for a photo shoot. That was never...
No. Well, what I want money for is a nonsense counterclaim for a nonsense suit.
No.
What I want money for is if she wants me, because she actually, I want you to take down every photo and delete everything you have. Well, if you want to, that means if you want to own the rights to the photos, this is what it's going to cost you.
You've not, just a second. She doesn't want all the rights to the photos. She can't.
That's what she called me saying.
Okay. But she can't modify the agreement.
Agree.
If I find, which seems absolutely logical, and I don't know why you just wouldn't do it, give her the photographs, which you bargained for, so that she got copies of them in exchange for you using them on social media. That seems to be perfectly simple, Mr. Long. Did she ever notify you that she couldn't download the 29?
You know when she notified me? So in May of this year, which is Women's History Month, I was daily, I post some photos of women that I took photos of and just kind of like honor them for Women's History Month. So on like May 5th, with 5th day of Women's History Month, I posted.
Slow down.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. So I posted 3 photos of her to say, hey, I want to honor, a friend of mine. It's Women's History Month, just kind of I thought it was a nice thing. So then she calls me. I was picking my daughter from school. Well, she emailed me. I don't know if she emailed me first.
Does this have something really important to do with this case?
Yes.
Well, get there, please.
Yes,
I'm not interested in picking your daughter up from school.
So, but you asked me when did she notify me. So 5 months later, she notified me in May. The photo shoot was in November. So, but you asked me when did she notify me? She told me this right as all of this, as she wanted to start an argument.
Mr. Long,
yes,
you
ma'am.
can talk from today till tomorrow.
I know, I'm long-winded.
What the agreement
yes, ma'am.
is clear. She sat for you. How long was the photo shoot? Don't look at me. How long was the photo shoot?
Almost 5 hours.
How long was the photo shoot, Mr. Long?
No, it's about about 3 hours. About 3 hours.
Okay, so anywhere between 3 and 5 hours.
Ma'am.
Anywhere between 3 and 5 hours.
Well, it definitely wasn't 5.
She said
it was wintertime, so it got dark early. We were outside at Cascade Nature Preserve. So
I'm getting so bored
I know,
with
I'm
you.
sorry. But yeah.
Anywhere between 3 and 5 hours. And if you shot 100 pictures during that time?
Oh, no, much more. So
how many pictures did you shoot?
Probably 300-400. I mean, it was a lot.
Not so.
No, yeah, well, because this is important. You know, so what happened is that we did a lot of motion shots. So which means that I put the camera in high continuous shutter mode. So while she's moving, I'm capturing I'm just taking photos, right? And then we choosing out of which motion that look best. You know.
Oh, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to send her the copies of the photographs that you took.
That was an agreement, Your Honor. Because why would I send you every photo and I'm going to have work out there with my name on it, that something, because you blinked and we moving. We taking action shots. I'm never,
just a second. Do you think, hey.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that this woman is going to put out a photograph anywhere that looks terrible of her?
Yeah, see,
that would be
right.
That would be ridiculous.
See, we have a difference in opinion, right? She may think this is a nice one, and as a photographer, I'm like, and another photographer sees it, they're like, this is kind of garbage, right? And so I'm never going to give somebody something that I wouldn't approve of myself.
Oh yes.
Ever.
Well, what I'm telling you, Mr. Long, was that was not your agreement.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to, in 30 seconds, you were commiserating with each other from this cycle group, whatever it was, and I want you to tell me your memory of the discussion with the plaintiff about the photographs, about her sitting for you for a photo shoot. Then I'm going to hear hers. Quickly, what is your memory of the discussion, initial discussion that you had with her over her sitting for a photo shoot? Don't make things up.
No.
Mr. Long, then just tell me.
This is factual.
Then just tell me.
Yes. So we were at a social gathering. It was a holiday party for one of the groups that we are part of, right? So we were at this bar called Handlebar in Atlanta, and we were talking, and I was doing some shooting inside of the party, right? And she says, hey, we ought to shoot together sometime.
That's not true.
Just a second.
Yes,
You're going to have a chance. Don't interrupt him. Just keep going. And you understand,
yes, ma'am.
I know the difference between rain and someone peeing on my leg.
Right. And
I just know the difference.
I've never peed.
Okay. Let's move on.
Right. And so we were at this.
So you were at a party. Hey, you're taking pictures. And she said to you, hey, come on, let's go.
Yes. Hey, we should do a shoot together sometime.
Okay.
And I was like, that would be cool.
Okay.
Right. And then so she reached out to me. So the Braves won the World Series last year. She reached out to me a little before the Braves won the World Series and said, hey, would this day be good? And I was like, well, it's going to be kind of cold. This is going to be going on. So the day that the World Series parade was, which was November 3rd. Right, November 3rd is the day that we shot because after the Braves, I went and met her.
Just a second. Do you have
Cascade.
any idea how disinterested I am in these facts?
I know, but
okay,
just
Mr. Long,
yeah.
Before she got there, you had an arrangement, and if you can't tell it to me in a cogent way, I'm going to ask her, and I'm going to believe her. Do you understand?
I do.
I'm looking for your version of the contract.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So just give it to me. I don't care who was playing baseball. I don't care who was in the finals. It means nothing to me.
Princess Davis claims photographer Tavares Long broke their photo shoot agreement. Tavares is countersuing, saying Princess owes him for the rights to the pictures.
Okay, you're at a bar,
Yes.
you're taking some pictures.
Yes.
You're taking some pictures. She comes over to you. She said, how about a photo shoot? You say, fine.
Yes.
I'm looking for your version of the contract.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So just give it to me. I don't care who was playing baseball. I don't care who was in the finals. It means nothing to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Just tell me the contract that you had with her. There had to be a contract.
Well, other than us verbally, there was no written contract.
That doesn't have to be a written
so you
contract.
want just what we verbally said? Yes. So then after that, we agreed to meet up, right? And then once we finished shooting, because we never discussed how many photos were going to be sent, right? Until we actually looked at the photos together, Your Honor. We looked at the photos. She said, "Oh no, I don't like this one because there's something."
Just a second. You looked at the photos on the date of the shoot?
No. Well, she looked at some of them on the camera, but not every photo on the camera. But
when did you look?
Oh, I sent it to her on November 6th. I emailed her. So November 3rd is when we shot. November 6th is when I sent her the photos.
How many did you send her?
29.
Okay, but you didn't send her all of them.
No, because that wasn't an agreement.
Well, I didn't hear the agreement. I didn't hear anything about an agreement.
We didn't have a specific number.
I didn't hear anything about an agreement.
That wasn't
okay, good. Now you have to be quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
Now tell me your version. Make sure that I get exactly the case.
Okay. On October 15th, we were both at a holiday event from one of our social groups, and he actually came up to me. And he was like, "You're beautiful. I would love to shoot you. I'm trying to build up my photography practice." And I was like, "Okay, what do you want to do? Like a, barter thing where I get a copy of all the pictures and you can use them to promote." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "We can talk about it this week."
Oh, so what he said to was, "Yeah, we can talk about it this week."
Mm-hmm. No, and we had another phone call.
Keep going.
To solidify that I would get a copy.
No. Don't say solidify. Solidify is a conclusion.
Okay.
What I want you to tell me is after that meeting, you had another conversation.
Yes.
Did you call him or did he call you?
I called him.
Yes.
And I said, "Okay, so I know you had talked about the shoot. Like, what were you interested in doing? I know you talked about the barter." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm building up my practice. I would love to shoot you." And I asked him, I said, "Okay, so I'm going to get a copy of all the pictures, right?" "Yeah, you'll get a copy of all the pictures."
God.
I asked him then, I said, "Do you have a makeup artist?" Because I've done this agreement before with other photographers. and
I would like you to be quiet.
Agreement.
Hey,
okay.
I would like you to be quiet.
I will.
This is a pretty standard agreement with photographers and models. Okay, I'll go back to it.
I'm not interested in that or the Atlanta Braves.
Yes. So basically what it was is I would get a copy of all the pictures. I would also do...
I don't want to hear basically. I want to hear what you said to him and what he said to you. I don't want to hear anything else.
I said...
So now you're shocked.
And I will get a copy of all the pictures that he said yes.
Keep saying it again. I heard you the first time that you would sit and you would get a copy of the pictures.
Yes.
And he said, yeah.
Yes.
As I can imagine him saying to you.
Yeah, but
okay.
I didn't.
You get an A for annoying. Which is not where you want to be here.
It's not.
Because this is really a very, very simple situation.
Yes.
Really simple. Of the pictures that you took of her, be very careful because she has it. Of the pictures, the 29 pictures that you sent to her, did those 29 pictures contain all of the pictures that you ever put up on your website? Or did you use any of the other pictures that you took from the photo shoot on your website? Do you understand my question, Mr. Long?
I do.
Did you use any photos other than the 29? That's either a yes or a no.
She told me yes, there's one.
Just a second, she told me.
That's what she told me. Well,
Mr. Long, not she told me. When you had a conversation with her subsequently and she said to you, "I saw you put a picture up on your website. It wasn't one of the ones you sent to me." A normal person who is a photographer, who is now having a dispute, would go back to the photographs and see which picture she was talking about and look to see the 29 pictures that you sent, and you would have said, yes, it was one of the 29 pictures that I sent to you. My question is a simple one. Were any pictures that were not turned over to her ever used on your website?
So I want to be honest with you, right? So
that's either a yes or a no.
Right, well, this is the thing. So
no, there's
this
no
whole conversation that she's talking about
Mr. Long, there's no thing.
Yeah.
There's no thing to my question.
All right.
There's either a yes or a no. Were any photographs other than the 29 you sent her ever put up on your website?
Not to my recollection, because...
Okay, just a sec. So the answer is not to your recollection. Now I'll come back to you, Ms. Davis. You did receive viewing copies of 29 photographs.
Viewing only copies, yes. Not copies, but access to a file, yes.
Okay. And there came a time when, according to you, you saw a picture on his website that was not a picture that you had a viewing copy of.
Yes.
Do you have that?
Yes. Give me 1 second. Where's mine?
And then the communication with him, if you have any communication about that photograph. Is this all clear to you, Whitney, this case? Is this clear to you? Is there anything that needs clearing up?
Okay, that
You
is
pretty
a
clear.
text message. This one was the specific one that I didn't recognize. I had seen.
No, I don't want to know that you recognize it. I want a picture that was not within the 29 photographs that he sent to you, and then any communication with him that you have via text message?
That's the text message.
That's a lovely photograph.
Thank you.
Yeah, she got it for free.
Text messages. You can also. Oh.
Happy Monday sent you all the photos you liked back when we took them. Okay. So what she's saying to you here is that she feels very uncomfortable about you having pictures of her that she doesn't have copies of and having them accessible to you to post. I just want to finish this back and forth.
Yes, ma'am.
She does say, if you don't want to send her all the pictures, just delete them all from whatever hard drive you have and take her pictures down from any social media. Did you do either one of those things? That's what this back and forth seems to talk about.
I didn't, and I was never going to do it. Because
just a sec. I didn't ask you if the answer is no.
Okay, no.
Where are the photographs now, Mr. Long?
The photographs, I use, scan discs, so they're on the SD card.
So very easy to make another one and just give her a copy, is that right?
No.
What, it's hard? Is that hard, Sarah, to make a copy of that memory chip? What do you have to do?
I don't think so.
I mean, I've seen people do that before. They plug something in, they plug something in at the other end, and then one transfers to the other. Am I wrong?
It's not hard, no.
What?
It's not.
I think he's saying it's not impossible. He's just not going to do
nothing's impossible. But one, I don't send all photos to anyone. I've never sent every photo that I've taken of someone. I've never done it.
Then, Mr. Long, I don't care what you've never done.
Right.
Then, shh. Mm-hmm. Why don't you try listening? Well, the one that tends to benefit the most from the contract, business-wise, is you. You see, these photographs are not her business.
Do you want to use these photos for her business?
Do you see my mouth moving?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you be quiet and just listen?
Princess Davis has accused photographer Tavares Long of withholding photos from their photo shoots. Tavares says he can keep the photos he chooses because he owns them.
Okay, if there is ambiguity in an oral contract, two things should happen. First of all, the one that tends to benefit the most from the contract, business-wise, is you. That's not her business. You see, these photographs are not her business. She does...
You want to use these photos for her business?
Do you see my mouth moving?
Yes, ma'am.
She works as an interpreter. So she doesn't need for her job as an interpreter photographs like this. They're nice to have to look through a book, nice to have professional photographs taken. I know Sarah loves to do that.
All right.
But this is your business.
It is.
And if you put up, why don't you be quiet and just listen? If you put her picture up on your website, you're the professional at photography, so that you have to create a contract. You. Not her. This is a sport for her. This is social.
She said she models and she wants something for her portfolio.
She may want something, which is why she sat for you. She doesn't have the photograph, so you have two choices.
Mm-hmm.
Either you give her a copy of that drive that you have. You still own the pictures. Anytime that she wants to use the pictures, you have to get credit for the pictures.
I'm never going to give somebody every photo because I don't want any work out there that is not standard for my business to be out there and somebody post it. We took action shots. I'm not giving you shots and you blinking.
Mr. Long, you came here and signed a document before you came into court today that you were going to be bound by any decision that I made.
Mm-hmm.
If you read the contract that you signed, that's what it said.
Okay.
So where do you come from? What city and state?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. And how did you get here?
Flew.
Yeah. And who paid for that?
I'm assuming you did.
Right. And when you got here, you stayed in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume you want to go home to Atlanta.
I do.
Eventually.
How long are you going to...
No, I assume. And when you came here, sir, you also got a fee, an appearance fee. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how much did you get as an appearance fee for trying your case before me?
I can disclose that.
What, disclose it? I'm asking you a question. You're under oath.
I thought you wasn't supposed to
No,
talk about
listen
it.
to me. Don't look at her.
Okay.
Listen to me.
All right.
How much of an appearance fee are you being paid to have your case tried before me?
$300.
$300. And you'd like that $300.
I mean, yeah.
What?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
So this is what I'm telling you. I'm holding your $300 until she gets a copy of the hard drive with the photographs on it.
Okay.
So if you don't give it to her, it's going to cost you at least $300. You're just lucky I'm not taking your airline ticket as well.
Yes, sir.
When a contract that is verbal is interpreted, because there may or may not be a meeting of the minds in a verbal contract, but it seems to me that you were, and you're the business professional, so you're loosey-goosey. Use it for me, and I want to use it for my website. Can I get copies of the photos? Yes, I can get copies. Yeah, you can get copies of the photo. Then you sent her copies of the photos, and then you took down the site. It's not my fault that you didn't do anything. So this is my judgment. She gets copies of the photo shoot that was conducted in November of 2021. She gets copies of those photographs. Anytime she wants to use any of those photographs for anything, any publicity, it has to have your name on it, so send it to her, who the photographer was, and you have to get credit for it. You own the photographs. They are your photographs, but she gets copies of them because I cannot ascertain, other than listening to you, I can actually hear you saying, sure, you're going to get copies, and then you selected the ones that you wanted to select. Anyway, that's my judgment. You get copies, your counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I don't agree with it.
I'm glad that it's over.
No photographer is ever going to send somebody 100% of any photo that they took.
He owed me those photos. That was our agreement.
I don't want work out there that doesn't represent me.
I don't understand why anyone would want to hold photos from somebody that was doing them a favor.
It just changed who I do business with.
I mean, it's just like the judge said, why would I put a bad photo of myself in public?
What they may believe is good may not be what I believe is good.
It makes no sense. He's just a total liar.
I thought I was doing something for a friend and for free.
We weren't really friends. We were like social. Like, he's inflating that.
Now that don't matter if it's free or not, I do put it in writing.
Just go to a different photographer. Don't you waste your time.
I think we have a difference of opinion on that one. Okay. My roommate from college is a professional photographer who has done sort of a similar arrangement with me, and I've learned a lot from her about the ins and outs of the photography business. And I know that a big problem for photographers is they don't want the raw, unedited, like the defendant was explaining, photos of out of, say, 400 or 500 out in the world if they haven't put their photographer edit or touch on it yet, which I can understand if that's their business. So if I were ruling, I would have maybe, it's hard to split the baby in half per se, but said 50 photos out of, she only received the 29. So maybe if he had edited up to his standards, 50 of the photos and delivered her downloadable versions, but I understand that's sort of rewriting history from a loosey-goosey type.
Well, it's rewriting a contract. It is, and I actually see your point, but that would have required a lot of work for him.
Yeah, but he is the businessman. He should have had the contract to begin with.
Well,
and if you're going to be making statements to someone that you're going to give them all the photos, even though that's against what I know to be standard practice, then you're sort of out of luck. Then you're going to have unedited photos with your name attached to them. And as a photographer, you should really have more contracts in place for situations like this.
With a clear understanding by both parties. Yeah, that's his business, and he really wanted to use them for business. So he should have had a more stable written contract that I could interpret. Other than that, I was really comfortable with an all or nothing. Yeah. Either if you're going to use them and you've already used them on the website, a reasonable view of both their testimonies was he said, oh, yeah, you'll get copies, and then later gave her just a select few. But I actually understand now the standard in practice, and I could have offered that as an alternative. Yeah. Okay, you should.
Suing his former friend, Lawrence Sr., for money he gave Lawrence to run a boys' basketball team.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2167, Gabriel versus Senior.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gabriel, it's always exciting for me when I find a case that I can't relate to based upon my own personal experience. And this has to do with sports.
Yes.
And those people who know me know that I'm really a non-functioning American when it comes to sports. I understand baseball, but nothing else. However, I have a little bit of experience with people. So you have a son, that would be you. Could you stand up for a moment? Who's tall? Now you can sit down. And who likes to play basketball?
Yes, Your Honor.
And he's been playing basketball for a long time. Well, most sports stopped at the start of the pandemic. And he was playing for a team.
Yes, Your Honor.
I know that I'm going to get fuzzy on this eventually. So far, I'm holding up okay. So he was playing for the team. The team closed down, as did most other things. And the pandemic is sort of winding down, and sports are coming back. And you wanted your son to play basketball because this is your senior year in high school?
No, I'm a freshman in college, Your Honor.
Last year, so this happened last year?
Yes, I was a senior.
So this happened last year when he was a senior in high school, and you wanted him to play because he enjoyed it and because you thought somebody would find him? A scout?
Mostly the enjoyment, but there's always a chance for the scout.
Okay, and you know, you're his father, and fathers always think that their sons are uber talented and maybe can be one of those quiet self-starters who turns out to be the hero on the basketball court. I have a grandson who plays baseball, and he plays baseball pretty well. Plays in college. His father follows him around from one game to another like it was a full-time job.
I can relate to that. It is.
Well, your son wanted to play. There was no team. The defendant was a basketball coach who you knew.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whose team was also the teams that he coached were also defunct because of COVID. So far, correct, Mr. Senior?
Yes, ma'am.
So at some point, you approached him and said, I'd love to start up this team again because I would like my son to play ball. He wants to play ball, and nobody else is doing it that I know of. What would it take to restart a team that could be part of a league or play other teams? You know.
Yeah, you're right.
You know.
Yeah.
Is that close?
Yeah. You're close.
You're close.
Yes.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. So you talked about an amount, and Mr. Senior said, I can start the team up for $8,500.
Yes, ma'am.
You, who wanted desperately for your son to play ball his senior year, said, I'm going to give you the money. You gave him $8,500. So far, correct?
$8,200.
It's $8,500, Your Honor. I have the check right here if you'd like it.
Okay. If you have the check, cash it. So it's $8,500. The team only played one game or one tournament?
No, it was actually four tournaments in total for that season that we played.
And how many are you supposed to play?
We had planned on 6 in total. 1 would be out of state or far away.
No. How many games were supposed to be played by your son's team being coached by the defendant?
So a tournament could have 3 games. And that takes over the course of a weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday.
So
a tournament could be 3 games.
Tournament is 3 games.
Could be 4 as well if you're successful.
Okay, so you were supposed to have 4 tournaments?
We were supposed to have 6 tournaments, and we did have 4.
Okay, so you played most of the games?
Yes.
And then the team was disbanded?
Yes.
For whatever reason, may or may not be relevant. So how much money do you want back? You're suing him for $4,800.
Right.
Well, you know, math is my second non-strong suit.
Yep.
But if you paid him $85 and you played 2/3 or 3/4 of the games that you were supposed to play, why do you think you would be entitled to $4,800 back?
Because I also fronted the money for the uniforms.
Well, that was spent.
And the graphics.
Well, that was
in addition to the $8,500.
I understand that, but that was all spent. The uniforms the players got. Right? And they kept them?
The players kept some, and the defendant has the rest of them.
Okay. Do you want them back?
I do not.
Well, he'll give them to you back if you want them, because he's not using them.
How do I know that? This is his team, his organization. It's a non-for-profit company.
Okay, let's deal with it slowly. We're dealing with the math first. Do you have, Mr. Senior, do you have any of the uniforms?
No, ma'am. I never collected the uniforms.
Did you
sole
have?
Possession.
What?
Well, he had sole possession of the uniforms.
So you don't have any uniforms?
No, he's the one that handed them out.
Okay. Did any of the players give them back to you?
No, none of them gave.
So you don't have any uniforms?
No.
He doesn't have any uniforms?
Okay. But, Your Honor, it didn't cost $85 to run the team, that's my...
Just a second. Not what we're talking about, sir. Your $8,500 went to have 6 tournaments. You had 4 tournaments, right?
Yes.
Whether or not you get your money back is a whole other thing. But the uniforms were purchased. That you don't get back. The advertising graphics were done. That you don't get back.
But that's
Whether
not
it's
my
for
name
4
on
or
it.
a 6.
That was his team's name on it.
Doesn't matter. What difference does it make?
Majority did not pay.
Do you have anything that requires that they pay in a contract?
That would be Coach Larry that he does, and he passed out those to the kids.
No, he didn't put in $8,500. You did.
Jason Gabriel claims his former friend, Lawrence Sr. owes him money after they started a boys' basketball team.
Now, can you tell me why the tournaments were cut short, sir?
There was a number of reasons, Your Honor. One of them was right from the start, both me and my other son tried to discourage Mr. Giamni about forming a team of that age group.
Okay, I don't want to get back into that, sir. You took his money, you played 4 out of the 6 tournaments. How much were you paid to coach out of this $8,500?
I wasn't paid anything.
Did you?
It's more of an administrative cost.
What administrative costs?
Scheduling tournaments, gyms, gas, transporting kids that didn't have rides. More than half the team was not supported by their family. At least one kid was homeless.
Was there an accounting that you asked for, sir?
Yes, that was my initial response to Coach Larry. Was yes, he told me $8,500 to start the team.
No, I'm asking you an accounting at the end of the day.
I asked him where the money went. Like, could he account for $8,500 in addition to $1,600 that other kids paid to play? That's how I was going to get my money back. It wasn't just, I'm going to give you the money and you go do with it what you want. He told me it was $8,500 to start the team, and I would get my money back.
Oh, from what source?
The kids pay to join the team.
Okay. How many people were on the team?
We had as many as 14, maybe 16 come through.
To tryouts. They didn't play. I'm sorry. How you doing, Your Honor?
How am I doing? I've been better. You're his son?
Yeah, I actually run the program with him. Yes.
Okay, good. So how many young men were playing basketball?
On the team that you're talking about that's in question, I believe there was as many as 10 to 12 that actually came. The numbers vary because we're talking about 18-year-old children that come and go as they please. They don't really want to be that.
18-year-olds are maybe children to their parents. They're not 18-year-old children.
When it comes to this, then
the
responsibility part, yeah. I don't know. I'm old, I guess. They're children to me still. Sorry.
What I want to know is, did you have a contract with him, a written contract?
I did not.
You just said, here's your $8,500 and I'll get my money back when the kids sign up and pay their dues. How much do they pay each to join the team?
Coach Larry set that number at $600 per player.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we tell you where that number comes from? Over the years, because we've been doing this for over 20 years, the average cost to run a team for a full season, we averaged it out to be about $600 per kid, because on a 10 to 12 man roster, 10 being the least you should have.
How does he make money?
We don't make money, I'm sorry. We don't make any money.
So you don't make any money, you just do this for the love of the sport?
He grew up in a basketball family, he's played basketball all his life. I've been in a sports family, my brother has, and we just love sports.
So this is not a money-making operation?
Not at all. We probably put in more money than we've made or put out in the program. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, I coach high school football. Actually, his son goes to the school I coach. So I was aware of him, and I also coach baseball. So I just don't, you're not going to make any money coaching youth sports if that's what everybody's saying.
Well, I'm just asking you.
No, I know that.
I'm just asking you, because there is a suggestion here that some of that money was to pay you as coach. And I just want to know whether that is in fact correct, whether any of this $8,500 went to you.
Not directly, no. Talking about gas.
Indirectly to pay for gas and pick up
maybe a
that.
car repair. I only had one car at the time. Okay. So
Mr.
me and
Gabriel,
my wife were retired.
Mr. Gabriel, can you tell me if you have, since you have no written contract, you have no written contract requiring anything. You were supposed to start up a basketball team, which he did. I assume you played, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you played in 4 out of 6 tournaments. Stand up next to your dad. Did you play successfully?
I only played 3 out of the 4 tournaments.
That's reasonable.
But we were
Is
successful.
that normal? That members, I don't even know how many people are on the basketball court at a time.
5 at a time.
5
What?
5 at each team at a time, so 10
5
total. Yes.
Well, if you had 10 to 12 kids, you what? What are you laughing at? I don't know.
I tried to expose it to you before this case. I tried to put it on TV. I played the Lakers.
So if I
I
get
played
back
the
up to
Clippers.
2019, we met Coach Larry in 2019. I didn't just pick him out of the blue now.
I didn't suggest that you picked him out of the
So
blue.
my son
Mr.
played for
Gabriel.
him in the past.
Mr. Gabriel, you don't look like the man that would give some stranger $8,500 to start up a team, not knowing him.
Correct.
Okay, I accept that. I just don't understand that are you a business person?
I am.
What kind of business are you in?
I'm a contractor.
Well, if you're a contractor,
Yes.
that I know. You have contracts.
Absolutely.
You're a contractor has contracts. And the contract that you do, you build homes or you build...
I remodel homes, yes.
Okay. So the contracts that you do lay out with specificity what you're going to do, what the materials cost are, what the VIG is on it, within a certain amount of play. But it lays out everything that you're going to do. You're turning over $8,500 to the defendant, and there is nothing in there that suggests that with any specificity what he has to do to comply. He had to start a team, which he did, right? Had to start a team, which he did, where your son played.
Yes.
Which he did. There were supposedly 6 tournaments, out of which 4 were successfully played, and your son played in 3 of them, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you should have been happy. Somebody got a chance to see him. Did anybody give you a basketball scholarship?
I do play Division III basketball in Brooklyn.
Good for you. There you go. Did somebody find you at one of these games?
No.
How were you recruited?
I did multiple showcases, and I won in Connecticut in particular.
He's a good player, Your Honor.
He's a good player.
And so I was found through showcases that I did by my own.
Okay. But you played, and there was good practice. It was good.
Yes.
I don't know why it was disbanded after 4 tournaments. Do you? Do you?
Yes. There was multiple players who did not want to play anymore because they were verbally abused by the coach, and they just were fed up. And then there was other players that were let play for free, and people just thought that was unfair.
What do you mean with not play for free? Explain that to me.
That they were just let on the team without paying.
Oh, so some people were disturbed that some people paid to play and some didn't.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have anything that requires that they pay in a contract?
That would be Coach Larry that he does, and he passed out those to the kids.
No, I'm asking you for your... He didn't put in $8,500, you did. Here it says, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage. I assume that's your home mortgage.
Correct, after the season was over.
Well, you can't do that. You can't do that, sir. Do you understand?
Jason Gabriel is accusing his former friend, Lawrence Sr., of owing him money after their boys' basketball team ended.
Go ahead, sir.
I put the money to the team. He runs the team. I can't tell him how to run his team.
No, would you have a contract, sir, that tells you what your $8,500 was to be used for, and the expectation that you were going to get that money returned to you via fees that were paid to each individual player? That has to be it. And in the event that they don't pay, who's going to pay?
Well, I do have a text message from the defendant saying, I did not use all the money. It did not cost $8,500,
Okay,
and I will pay you back.
That's what I would like to see. Because it was disbanded for whatever reason. All your reasons, sir, are hearsay. What is your first name?
Gianni.
Gianni, the reasons are hearsay. Why people left, they didn't like to be yelled at, they didn't like some people. That's all stuff that I can't process as a jurist in my head. All I know is this is a contract case. So now he paid $8,500, and did you, Mr. Senior, at some point say the $8,500 hasn't been all used up, and I'll give you back some of the money?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And this is also a text message saying he used it for his mortgage and that he agreed to pay me $400 a month to pay back the money.
Coach, fees to catch up on my mortgage, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage, at least $1,500. And between operating costs, there is roughly $2,400 left.
Correct.
Well, that's what you wrote to him.
Yeah, and I was willing to give him the money that the kids had paid up front.
No. There is roughly not the money that the kids paid up front, sir. You say to him in your text after this was all over, because I assume that this is all over after the
You're
team
correct.
was just
Yep.
banded, there is roughly $2,400 left. So I'm going to have to work out sort of a payment arrangement, if you don't mind, which means you didn't have the money, but it was left over and you spent it on something else. And it's here, it says, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage. I assume that's your home mortgage.
Correct, after the season was over.
Well, you can't do that. You can't do that, sir. Do you understand? Okay, well, this acknowledges several things. It acknowledges that he used $1,500 to catch up on his mortgage, right? And that, according to you and according to your son, whether or not you took a fee for yourself, paying your home mortgage is a fee. Do you understand that, sir?
I do.
All righty. So
I sure do.
You sure do. So $1,500, did you pay him back the $1,500?
No, because at that
No.
point,
No, the answer is no. And you said even after the $1,500 that you used to pay your home mortgage, there was still $2,400 left. That's what you said in here. That's a yes.
yes, ma'am.
Well, then you add 24 and 15 is 009 is $3,900.
Yes.
Even my rudimentary math suggests to me that that is a
Your math is
correct
good.
number. Well, that's minimally what you owe him, your mortgage payment and the $2,400 left. You're suing him for $4,800.
Right.
This acknowledges 39.
Absolutely.
Prove to me any more.
So I went back to Mr. Senior and I said, I didn't necessarily believe that it cost $5,500 to run the team. I said, so therefore, you owe me $5,000. I said, you need to either get a loan and pay me back, or he said, I can't get a loan. I can give you $400 a month.
I'd like to see the exchange.
I said, if you're going to give
I'd
me...
like to see the exchange. Just because you said, I think it's $5,000.
And this is where he says, I'd like to pay you back.
This doesn't say anything about $5,000.
And this is where I told him that he misappropriated money that was owed back to me, and that was his response.
Just because you said it, he doesn't acknowledge here in his answer that it's $5,000. Silence cannot be construed as acknowledging $5,000. Even the math doesn't fit in. You played more than half the tournaments. So
Can we see how much the tournaments cost then, please?
no, I'm not bothering. That's nonsense. Put something in a contract. You're a contractor. Have a contract. Right now, he owes you $3,900.
And not for the uniforms?
No.
That has his team
No, he says he
name on
doesn't
them?
have the uniforms.
Okay.
And I didn't go to 7 years postgraduate school to discuss a basketball uniform, a pair of shorts, and a pair of socks. I don't care.
The uniforms are $1,000.
Well, then somebody's overpaying for a pair of shorts. $3,900. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're finished.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I think it was unfair.
I'm glad she ruled somewhat in my favor.
Because he sponsored a team.
And yes, did I do it for my son? I did. But there was 11 other young men that I did it for.
Fighting amongst each other, poor discipline, and the lack of financial support from the kids.
When you have a group of 18-year-old young men and you don't practice and you don't kind of reel them in and show them that you're the coach and that you run the team, it can get a little hairy.
It is what it is.
I did what I did for these young men. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Me and Jason's are friends. I don't think this is a deterrent.
Always have contracts.
Okay. So I know that when we got the paperwork on this case that you really tried hard to give me a rudimentary lesson in basketball.
I did. Those years managing in high school really paid off today. So
Yes,
learned
that's right.
a lot.
You managed.
I did a basketball team, so I know a little bit about AAU. A lot of the kids that played at the school that I went to had previously played on AAU teams, so I kind of get
What's
the dynamic.
AAU?
Oh, Amateur Athletic Union, AAU.
I never would have figured that.
Me neither. So they played on a lot of AAU teams before coming to high school, so I know a little bit about the structure. And when I read it, it's a nonprofit organization that kids play in to get exposure, hopefully to move up to the next level of basketball. But to me, I read it as he was sponsoring the team for $8,500, sort of like how you see in Little League, you know, Johnny's Pizza across the front of the
No,
team's uniforms.
that wasn't this.
But this seemed like a different type of setup, and to go through the coach directly, I'm not sure the very specific structure of who gets paid and who doesn't, who sponsors and who doesn't. But definitely paying your mortgage out of an $8,500 that was meant to start a team seems a little outside.
Yeah, well, it's
scope.
outside the box, especially since both he and his son say they do this without compensation. Well, you don't have to take money and put it in your pocket. If you take money out of that account and pay your personal mortgage, that's getting paid. It was not a difficult case, and the text messages made the whole thing a lot easier. Now I know that there were 5